100%. Okay, we're officially live. Alrighty, Assalamualaikum everybody, and welcome to ISCJ's virtual college application and college fair presentation. Just to give a quick background for what this committee is, ISCJ Lit is part of the youth group, is the ISCJ youth group, and one of the aspects that they focus on is mentorship, geared towards helping high school students and college students with different things that they might be going through. So this program is geared towards juniors and seniors in high school to kind of go over the college application process and answer any questions that you may have. We're going to start with a quick presentation on the college application process, and then we're going to start with our college fair. Alrighty. And if you have any questions throughout the event, feel free to put it on the chat and we'll answer the questions, inshallah. So navigating college applications and admissions. So in this presentation, we're going to cover where to start when you talk about college applications. A lot of times you get a lot of advice from different people and it's confusing as to where to start when you're starting to build your college application, and you want to make sure you hit all the marks you need to. Then we're going to go over building your college profile. Then next, how to apply. Going over some of the college app myths that you might have heard some people tell you that, like, hey, if you do this, like, you have a better chance of getting in, or hey, don't slack on this because it's super important. So some of those big misconceptions that you might hear as you're applying for college, we're going to go over. And then lastly, we're going to go over what happens after you apply. So once you finish applying for the schools that you want to go to, what do you do next? So to start, right, where to start when applying to college? It's super important that when you're thinking about colleges to apply to, you ask yourself this question. Is this the college you see yourself going to? You'll often get a lot of advice from your parents, from older brothers and sisters, different people in the community that'll tell you that this school or this university is the best for you. But you have to ask yourself, because at the end of the day, it is your decision. Is that a school you really see yourself going to? The Princeton of Dean admission said, what's the best match academically, personally, and financially is most important. It's really important to look at all of these different options. I know a lot of times, especially when I was applying to schools, alhamdulillah, I had a really great advisor in terms of explaining the different application process. And she would really ask us, is this school something that you really see yourself going to? Because every school that you apply to is a different fee. So it's really important that you visit the school if you can, see if it makes sense for the major that you're planning to do, or if you're undecided, if there are majors that you're interested in, see if that school even offers it. And is it something that you are financially willing to pay for? It's really important to look into scholarships, see if the universities offer scholarships and stuff like that. Because if it's something that you're not going to be able to pay for, or if it's something that's not really feasible for you, then it really shouldn't be a school you're applying to. So just highlighting exactly what I said, right? First is academics. Does the school I'm applying to have the programs I'm interested in? I can use myself as an example. I know that when I was applying to school, I wanted to do engineering, but I really wasn't sure what type of engineering I wanted to do. I knew that industrial engineering was something that I found interesting. So when I was applying to schools, I looked for schools that had industrial engineering, because not every school that had engineering had industrial engineering. Second, the atmosphere. It's really important to try to visit the schools that you're considering applying to and see if it's a vibe that you're okay with. There might be a school that you're really not interested in going, or it might meet what you think it does academically, but then when you go there, you're like, yeah, I don't see myself going here. Atmosphere is super important. Third, financials. Like I said before, it's super important. If the university is not something you're going to be able to afford, or it's not something that's feasible for you, maybe it's something that you shouldn't consider. And lastly, opportunities. Depending on what you want to do after graduation, it's really important to see what opportunities the school has for you. Is your school connected to different companies that you might want to work for, that you're okay with working on getting those opportunities through your school? Does your school have a 5-year grad program or an accelerated med school program if you're interested in med school? All of these things are super important when you're trying to figure out where to start and which schools you should consider.
All right, Assalamu alaikum. So building your college profile. So what you get into college, you get into high school. What do you need to get to college, right? So a personal statement, extracurricular activities, recommendation letters, and like all of this with the side of SATs, ACTs, a GPA. So we'll get into that, inshallah. So personal statement. The essay is the most important soft factor that colleges consider. Personally speaking, I think it's the most important part of your essay or of your application altogether because it's really what it's like you go into an interview for a job and you kind of showcase who you are, what you've been through. Like this is a time that if you had any hurdles through your high school experience, you write them down. If you had any achievements, any accomplishments, you write them down. You basically make sure you write down what your journey was like or what you think they should know about you for them to take you, right? Personally speaking, so my dad, he was a national athlete. He represented the country. So when I spoke in my personal statement, I spoke about me doing athletics, me getting this soft, this like legacy type thing for my parents. Basically pursuing what they've gave to me and like how it was so special for me, what I've learned from it, even though I started so late in my life, like what I got out of it. So not procrastinating. Make sure you're on top of your stuff. There's a lot of times that procrastination will be so detrimental. I can say for myself at least because I did a lot of things really late, but alhamdulillah, I was able to I was fortunate to still be given opportunities, but don't procrastinate. I can tell you that from a firsthand experience. Brainstorm unique themes and ideas. Like I said, what what do you want to showcase? Be true to yourself. I think this specific point is the most important. Don't be someone you're not. Don't showcase someone you're not. Be yourself and take pride in that. Write about it. You can talk about yourself forever. I'm pretty sure everyone here can. Practice, practice, practice. Essays require practice, and I think that goes without saying. Next. Extracurricular activities. The quality and uniqueness of extracurricular activities that are important to colleges. So common activities, leadership positions make you stand out. Colleges can tell when you just participate to write in on your college app. So different clubs, we'll start with like, Key Club, different MSAs, stuff like that. When you start getting on e-board, these positions do matter because they show who you are beyond just your grades. The next bullet point is quality, not quantity. So teaching an art class at a community center or having a part-time job is more impactful than signing up for random clubs. That is very, very true. Some people, you'll see their quote unquote their brag sheets or whatever it may be called, and you'll just see like XYZ club, like listed. Like there'll be just like 5, 6 clubs. And let me be the first to tell you that they don't matter. They really don't. They If you just sign up for clubs and you don't really show that you've done anything for that club, it really has really dead weight on your resume. It's better to have 2 to 3 clubs that you put in your time, put in your dedication, and trust me, it'll be worth it. You'll get so much more out of it. There'll be much more that you can speak upon, like whether that's in your personality statement, whether that's on your application. There's so much more that you can add to it in the notes section, whatever. Sports. Sports are super important and show that you know what it means to be a part of a team. Sports, I think, are an excellent extracurricular that everyone should partake in. It keeps Not only does it look good on college, but it really keeps you motivated and keeps your mind at ease. It's better for your mental well-being during high school. High school is very stressful. I think sports is something that keeps you kind of motivated and driven to keep going, keep pursuing what you want to pursue. And not only does it show you what it means to be a part of a team, but it also shows you how to be a leader in your own very unique way. Whether or not that means you have a title like you're a captain or you have a specific like manager role on the team, but every single player, every single position is ahead of that position. They lead that position. And how you get one another together, that really shows in the personality that you talk about in your personality statement. Last but not least, the recommendation letters. So get recommendation letters from teachers and faculty who will give insight on who you are as an individual. Don't go over 3 letters. Don't go over 3 letters, and identify the faculty and staff that can speak to your character and personality. This is a very crucial part to your application. Some colleges don't require it. I think it's best to include it. It doesn't hurt. It does much more benefit than harm, if anything. Don't just go to a teacher that you kind of just like, you kind of just did the work for the class. You still got a great grade. But you really didn't you weren't really engaged in the class. You didn't really talk to the teacher that much. Don't go to him or her and be like, can I get a recommendation? They'll write it, but what will they really talk about, right? And then on the flip side, if you have a class that you're really engaged on, even if you might have been like, we kind of tend to get engaged when we're having a tougher time in a class, right? Even if you had a tougher time, but you were engaged, that the teacher knows you personally, he or she will be able to write much more about you in a way that colleges will take into consideration versus like you doing well in the class and you just kind of like went through the year without interaction with the teacher. So that's really important because you kind of get this validity into your application that a teacher or faculty could provide that we can't necessarily put on our own.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to that. For recommendation letters, I know when you submit recommendation letters through Common App, there's a checkbox that you can check if you want to see the recommendation letters. And that's something that looks really bad for school. So like if you check that off that you want to see the recommendation letters, that basically means you don't trust like what your teachers or whoever you ask to write recommendation letters for you is writing. So like Waleed said, you really want to go to someone that you can trust what they're going to write about you. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone that'll relate to your major. So like I applied to engineering school. I got recommendation letters from my basketball coach, one of my teachers, and I think, so long ago, I think someone that I worked with over a summer job. So I didn't really necessarily have to get a recommendation letter from one of my math teachers or one of my physics teachers, but just someone who knows you well and can attest to the type of person that you are.
Yeah, to go off that, I think, like she said, she got it from her basketball coach. And I think what coaches can provide, teachers can't, because they see you at a different level. They don't see you academically. They kind of see you for who you really are with interactions with their teammates, with the coaches, with the staff. And I think that's an excellent example to get from a coach, from somewhere you worked or volunteered at. They can speak more to your character than like your quote unquote like academic abilities. And like a balance and a mixture of both is like, I guess, the best. So
Sorry, my mouse. Someone asked if we could provide different recommendation letters for different colleges. As far as I know, you can. So a lot of colleges go through Common App, and then you would put the person's information that you're getting the recommendation letter for, and then they would upload the recommendation letter. And as you're applying to the different schools, you would check off whose recommendation letter goes to which schools. Because I also know some schools do have a requirement for recommendation letters, or they'll put on their website that you should have someone in this department or someone, especially if you're applying to a specific program, you would want to vary your recommendation letters.
So how to apply? So build your college profile. Like that's what we kind of spoke about. Make sure you have a personal statement, school-specific essays, and recommendation letter set. About the essays, they're gonna be specific. Some you can kind of you can make one main like template and then you can go off that for each single one. But then the thing is like you have to check through the college websites and like see what their formats or their scenarios are, and then you kind of like work around that. Recommendation letters being set, make sure you set the appropriate time to write all of the required essays. I think before anything, going into your senior year, it would be best to have a calendar. And I personally use those like, those desk office calendars. I think it's the best way to write down everything, especially with dates. So as we talk about how to apply, right? Identify the schools you want to apply to. Every college application has a fee. Make sure you you apply to schools you actually see yourself going to. Don't apply just to apply. Like Mariam said earlier, like ask yourself, where do you want to go? What fits you? What if you want to stay close to home, what like radius do you want to stay in? Or if you want to pursue a specific major and you want to go for the best, like where is that located? Like check that out. And then obviously ask your parents what they think. If friends have suggestions, like take everything into consideration. It's never bad to ask for advice, but know that you can take advice and also you can be the one to take the decision. Applying, not every college is on college app. This is the most important thing. If you don't see it on college app, doesn't mean that there's a different time or something. That's why I said make a calendar.
Oh, sorry, that was a typo. It's Common App, sorry.
Oh, Common App, yeah. So make sure you know your school deadlines, right? So when you have that calendar, you write down what college you want to use. You already have a list of colleges right in your head. You write down when these dates are. Now, applications, right? I think the three main are early decision, early action, then regular. So if you know these dates, I'll go into like what all three are. So early decision is when you apply, you must attend to that school if you get in. There's obviously ways around it, but that's kind of what it requires. Early action is when it's a non-binding, but it's kind of like if you apply, you kind of have higher chances of getting in, but you're not required to go there. And then regular decision is just when they have that rolling period when you can apply as non-binding at all. It's just a simple application. All the applications are the same. There's no difference. It's just a matter of like what you think in terms of the priority you want to give to that school.
Sorry, Waleed, I think I muted you instead of unmuting myself.
Okay. No,
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
And it's perfect actually that you started talking about early action and early decision, because that is definitely something that I have heard from people in terms of early decision. I'm guaranteed to get into the school. And while there is a higher chance of you getting into the school, it isn't true for most schools. And a lot of schools do offer early action, which does give you a higher chance of getting in. But you don't have to go there if you do get accepted. And that's something that's super important. Something that's also important talking about finances, because early action is something that they're basically committing to the school if they get accepted, you're less likely to get scholarship opportunities at that school. So it's super important to look and see what the schools offer, because early decision is not necessarily the best thing to do unless you are sold and set that regardless of anything, this is a school you're going to go to, then it makes sense. Next is SAT scores are everything. I feel like especially in the Muslim community, people are obsessed with SAT scores. They're constantly talking about their SATs and what they got on it. And that was something that was super intimidating for me when I was in high school. And it's important to note that SAT scores are literally just one part of the puzzle, and they're moving more and more away from SAT scores and more towards the recommendation letters, more towards the college interviews, more towards your academics and extracurriculars, because that defines more of who you are and not necessarily test taking. And the last point, I will have a better opportunity at an Ivy League. This is a huge myth. And I use my brother as an example every time I talk about this. My brother went to Princeton, and he had a friend that went to NJIT, and they studied the same thing or something similar. And he always says that my friend at NJIT, because NJIT is known for being, if you're interested in doing tech, and we'll talk about that in the college fair, they're known for all of their relationships that they have with different companies. So my brother used to say that his friend got better job opportunities because of the connections that NJIT had than he did. So it's not necessarily a true statement that if you go to if you go to an Ivy League, that you're going to have a better opportunity at different careers or different schools. Another example of that is Rutgers and med school. Rutgers being connected to UMDNJ and Robert Wood is something that is super critical and super helpful for people who are at Rutgers who are interested in applying to med school. Okay. And then the last part of this presentation is once you've applied, once you met all of your deadlines, you got everything prepared, and you've sent in your application, what's next? So I talked about this in terms of the college interviews, I mentioned it, but I think most universities, I think maybe minus Rutgers, and I don't even know if they're changing that now, you will have you will have an interview with someone. It'll be someone who's from the university, an alumnus or something like that. It's super important that you come prepared. If you have a college resume, make sure you have that. Do some research on the school, but so that it's not just, oh, I just applied to the school because I applied to the school. Make sure you're dressed business casually. They usually meet at some open place. Like I met someone at Barnes and Noble, and another person I met at a coffee shop. So it's kind of informal, but not really. And just it's more to see, like Waleed said, it's really what colleges want to understand is who you are. Are you somebody that's going to be a good fit for their school? So they do college interviews. They look at your recommendation letter. They look at all these different things because they want to see the type of person that you are. Visit colleges again. So this is something that is super important. Once you've applied to schools and you've got that stress away from you, for schools that you're really considering, go and visit them again. Now it's so much more real that you might be going to that school. So go and check it out. Is it something that you really see yourself going to? Like now that you've applied and now that you might get an acceptance letter, are you going to accept it? Is that something that you see yourself doing? And then, as always, make istikhara for everything, right? It's super important, to not get stressed about this. It will be stressful, but it's important that you do the best that you can, right? And then tawakkal ala Allah, right? You leave everything up to Allah. If something, and then we know this from our religion, right? You might think that something is good for you, but it ends up being bad for you. And you might think that something is not good for you and it ends up being the best thing for you. So have tawakkul, because if you've done the best that you can and you've put in your best effort, you'll go to where you're supposed to go. And Waleed, do you have anything else to add to this?
I was just gonna add that there's so much power in istikhara, and these decisions are very big in our life. And the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he would make istikhara whether or not to sew his shoes or to get new ones or to throw them out. And that's such a small thing for us. We kind of we probably have 7-8 pairs of shoes that we just kind of go on the daily. And subhanAllah, college is something that's very important for us. It kind of defines who we are in the next 10 years of our life. It really does. And don't hesitate to make istikhara. It's very, very powerful. And like Mariam said, have to tawakkul. In terms of college, visiting colleges, I would say, yeah, definitely. I personally, when you go for a college visit and you kind of are in that group, you kind of are in this hype mode of everyone around you is wanting to go to that college. So you kind of, if you don't feel already the atmosphere you're in, you're gonna want to like where you're at. So go there alone, go there with family, and then really ask yourself, is this where I want to be for the next 4 years? Is this where I want to be for the next time in my life? And with that, I think that's it.
Yeah, so I didn't see any other questions. But sorry, just to follow what Waleed said. Parents are great and they do give really good advice. And people in the community will give you advice, and your cousins, your family, everyone will give you advice. But at the end of the day, it's your decision, right? You don't want to go to a school that you end up really not liking, or something that you really can't see yourself doing, just because you want to make your parents happy, or just because you want to make someone in your family happy, but it's not what you want to do. So make sure that you keep that in the back of your head whenever you're applying to schools. Um, and honestly, like we keep stressing, make a istikhara and do what you're supposed to do. And inshallah, you'll go to where you're supposed to be going. Okay. So I didn't see any other questions submitted on the chat. So what I will do, okay. So we're gonna start our tech and engineering virtual college fair in 2 minutes. We're gonna start on time at 2. So we'll give everyone a 2-minute break before we get started, inshallah. Alrighty, assalamualaikum guys. So we're gonna be starting our virtual college fair, starting with tech and engineering. So we're gonna start with NJIT, and we have, Shireen, Shireen and Awais, who both. Awais, are you still in school?
I just graduated.
Okay, okay.
Congrats.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, because I was gonna say you guys both attended NJIT and did engineering. So if you guys can give a quick introduction of who you are, what you studied, and then we can go over different things about your school.
Awais, you can go first.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So, assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Awais. I just graduated from NJIT with a degree in biomedical engineering. Was really interested in kind of the intersection between like biomedical science, healthcare, and also kind of the more typical traditional engineering. And inshallah, I'll be going to medical school next year at NJMS.
Wow, mashallah. Okay. Well, hello and assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Shireen Salim. I graduated from NJIT this past December with a degree in industrial engineering. I actually started my NJIT path as a pre-health student, and I transferred to be a mechanical engineer, and then I changed my major to be industrial engineer. But alhamdulillah, I'm really happy with my decision. I'm currently working full-time, and I think NJIT personally is really great. I'm not biased or anything, though.
Okay. So I guess my first question, because I did engineering too, but I didn't go to NJIT, is I guess first for talking about applications, did you have to apply specifically to the engineering school at NJIT, or could you guys just apply to NJIT?
So for me personally, I applied to be in the pre-health program, but if you transfer later on, I actually did have to apply to be in the newer College of Engineering school separately, and then I had to apply to be in the industrial engineering program at NJIT. So if you're transferring in from School of Arts and Liberal Sciences into, which is what I did, into Newark College of Engineering, it depends from program to program, but that's the path I had to take. I don't know what Luis had to do though.
Yeah. So on the Common App, I believe it's just indicating your major, and that's kind of split. Like Newark College of Engineering is the biggest. They have pretty much all the engineering majors. Then there's Yinglu College of Computing that has like the computer science, and they're also kind of listed over there. So transferring between back and forth, typically I don't think people have too many problems doing that, but there is a bit of a formality if you're switching from one college to another. Another quick note, you do have to kind of, if you want to apply to the Honors College, Albert Dorman Honors College, you have to add in an extra checkbox, write a couple extra essays. But usually it's very much worth trying. They're a little bit generous with financial aid and whatnot. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And in terms of choosing, I guess, what type of engineering you wanted to do, I know for my school, I had to decide first year, but a lot of times for other schools, you have to, I think, at least for, I went to Rutgers, so at least for SAS, I think you have to decide by like second or third year what your major is, but for engineering, I had to decide first year. Was that the same thing? And then was there like any introductory classes to engineering to help with making that decision?
I would say, always you answer first because I have to like really think about this.
Yeah, sure. So for freshman level courses, there's FED 101, Fundamentals of Engineering Design. It's typically segregated by major. So like biomedical engineers have their own FED, industrial engineers have their own FED, mechanical engineers have their own FED, and it's kind of like a nice way to get your feet wet and see if that specific subset is area you maybe like to continue studying. For us, in terms of kind of when to decide, usually people kind of meet with their major advisors starting from the very beginning at NJIT at least. But like while perhaps like that's kind of early, typically what I've seen is that there's not really any difficulty in switching later on or changing the decision. But sometimes with like kind of the cascade of coursework, switching a little bit later, like in your second year or third year, might lead to having to take an extra year at NJIT and whatnot. But the decision, I mean, the sooner the better, just to plan out the credits, maybe take some electives if you want. But there's not really, I guess, any major downside to delaying it, besides maybe having to stay an extra year.
Yeah, and what's really cool about NJIT is that every semester they offer a major minor fair where you could actually go in and talk to different advisors from different departments in order to get their input on what you're interested in if you do choose to take up a minor or switch your major. And what's really cool is that, yes, it's kind of like a domino effect with certain classes. So sometimes you have to take a prerequisite before taking one class, and sometimes classes are only offered in the spring or the fall. So it kind of does flip-flop. But it also does work out if you want to get experience. So for me, because I switched my major and I was doing a co-op, it kind of pushed back my graduation by a month. So I did 4.5 years. But alhamdulillah, like it worked out really well. Everything kind of fell into place. So it's not really something to worry about. It just happens. And as long as you have that open communication with your advisors, with your professors, always getting their input, and again, being open and true to yourself and saying, hey, is this what I want to do? And facilitating those conversations. So it's not necessarily that you have to declare your major at a certain time. It's more so of, okay, if I do want to take this major, what classes do I need to take in order to start myself up, and who do I need to talk to so that I'm in the right position? So it's more of that.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's super important, is to make sure that you're talking to advisors throughout the process. And I guess the last question I have, Olais, you were part of the Honors College and you dormed, right?
Yeah, I did.
Could you speak more towards that? And then Shireen, if you don't mind speaking more towards your experience with commuting.
Yeah, sure. So dorming at NJIT, definitely there's this kind of perception that, oh, it's in Newark, Newark's a bad place to be, whatnot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. From what I've seen, campus and even some surrounding areas are typically very well taken care of. There's like 5 police departments. There's NJIT's police, there's Essex County College Police, there's Rutgers Newark Police, then there's like the Newark Police Department Police. And there was one other one, maybe like NJ Transit or something. But I guess overall point is that it's typically the campus itself is really safe, so dorming there didn't really have any issues with safety and whatnot. As far as the Muslim community, NJIT has a pretty solid MSA as well. Definitely worthwhile, I would say, to get involved there. Even just like on a cursory basis, it's always kind of like a rivalry between NJIT and Rutgers as well. So not going to go too deep into that, but it's NJIT has a pretty solid community as well. My roommate was actually Muslim when I came in, so alhamdulillah, the entire time I was there, I had Muslim dorm roommates and suite mates, and honestly, it was a pretty great time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my experience was pretty great because my commute to Nur Liman was actually very, very long. So my commute to Newark was like a good 15 to 20 minutes, which I loved. So I was living with my family at the time. And like he said, honestly, Newark is such a great place to be when you're in school because it's very, very diverse. You're so close to Rutgers, the Yingwu College of Computing, and I think the bio department also entwines with the Rutgers departments. So it's a great advantage for you to meet people across different campuses and to work with them, a lot of cross collaboration. And you're also really close to New York. And like Miriam had mentioned before, you have leverage because you have really great exposure because you were part of the Newark College of Engineering. You have a very well-known school and a lot of people have heard about you and they want you. So there are a lot of college fairs. The commute is pretty easy. It's never busy in Newark. But being so close to Newark is very beneficial. I never dormed, but I also heard people love dorming there too. It's just easy access for everybody. It's pretty simple to do. And it's pretty great. The MSA is really, really great as well. And you have different clubs there's also a commuters club at NJIT. They have breakfast every Tuesday at 10 a.m. from pre-COVID. So it's really easy to commute. It's really easy to dorm. It's just a very, very safe place to be. And don't believe the Newark stigma. You are in a really diverse community and you will learn not only academically, but also socially different things.
Okay. And anything else you guys want to call out before we move on to the next school about why people should consider NJIT, specifically NJIT engineering?
Sure, yeah. So there's a lot of, I guess, kind of, and Mariam, I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but there's a pretty solid kind of connection to industry as well. There's a lot of NJIT alumni and stuff that are kind of willing to help out their current students and whatnot for internships, co-ops, even full-time roles to a certain extent. So that's definitely there, I guess, for current students as well.
Yeah, and I would say exactly. It's also when I was in my last semester of undergrad, I remember seeing a lot of people who I knew that were my friends that had already graduated and started their full-time jobs, but still facilitated their application processes through NJIT to get job opportunities. So it doesn't really just end when you graduate. You can go back and speak. I still keep in touch with my professors and my advisors. They're very, very helpful in giving career advice, professional advice on how to handle yourself and what's your next career move. So I feel like the benefits are really top notch with NJIT, and everybody should become a Highlander. But again, I'm not biased or anything. It's a great school.
Alrighty. Thank you guys so much for joining. Oh, wait, actually, sorry, I just saw a quick question. How many people share a dorm normally at NJIT?
Yeah, so it kind of varies by dorm building. The honors college itself, it's like a room. One room has yourself and a roommate, and then that's kind of organized in a suite where it's 2 and 2, and then there's a shared bathroom. Some other dorms like Oak have this a triplet setup. So there's sort of 3 people with their own little room, then they have a shared area and a shared bathroom. But typically it's either 3 to 4 in a suite.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be moving on to the next school, which is Rutgers. Thank you so much, Shireen and Awais, and consider NJIT if you're interested in engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, you're there. Alrighty, so if you want to just give a quick introduction to who you are and what you did at Rutgers in terms of engineering.
Sure. So, Assalamualaikum guys. I'm Feha Khan. I'm a senior at Rutgers University studying industrial engineering. I actually knew since high school that I'd be doing industrial engineering, so that definitely helped, and I'll talk about that later. During my time here, I've been doing like engineering clubs and like societies and like honor society kind of things, and I've done like 2 internships as well. So just like it's busy, but it's a lot of fun. Like by the end of it, it's fun. And I'm doing my senior design project right now, which like every senior has to do for whatever major they end up choosing. So that'll be like, it's like your thesis, I guess, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
So I guess why did you I can give also, sorry, quick introduction about myself because I mentioned I was part of engineering. So I also did industrial engineering at Rutgers a while ago. So this picture that you see of the engineering building was of course made after I graduated. So I never got to I never got to use the newer and nicer engineering building. But one of the things I did want to mention, I'm going to ask Feha the same question that I guess I'm asking myself. I applied to a couple of different engineering schools, but like I mentioned, I wasn't sure what type of engineering I wanted to do. But I did know that industrial was super cool, and it was something that I was willing to consider. And a lot of schools that I was interested in actually didn't have an industrial engineering program. So Rutgers was one of the ones that was top on my list. Feha, was that a similar reason for you for choosing Rutgers, or?
Kind of. Rutgers was more so because of the proximity to where I live, because I'm in Central Jersey.
Okay.
But then, like, because it did have such a good industrial engineering program, like that really helped. Because in high school, I was like really into math and statistics, but I was also like kind of into physics. So then it kind of just made sense to like go on that track and then study like a statistics and engineering based major. And when like doing the classes actually like in the past 3 or 4 years, like I've definitely seen that merging of math and science and business all in one. And then Rutgers also helped me with like double majoring. So I'm like also majoring in economics. So just all of that kind of environment and like the advisors kind of helped me plan out the tracks. So it was just like an easier choice, because at NJIT I'd like, or any other place with industrial engineering, I didn't really find it like that. So yeah, that answers it.
Yeah, and in terms of applying, I just wanted to talk about, we mentioned Common App before. Rutgers is not on the Common App. You have to apply through the Rutgers. Yeah, Rutgers is Rutgers, and you'll understand that if you go to Rutgers. So you do have to apply on the Rutgers website, and you actually have the choice of choosing, it's 3 schools, right? It's still 3 schools when you apply.
Yeah.
So one advice I do give to people, if you're not sure about what you want to do, but you're considering engineering, and you get I would say put engineering, and if you get accepted into engineering, start in engineering, because it's a lot easier to switch out of engineering than it is to switch into engineering.
Definitely. I like second that entirely, because a lot of the first year engineering classes will still double count towards like School of Arts and Sciences or business school anyways. So like you won't really get behind. So it works out.
Yeah. And something that's unique, Feha, is that you actually are double majoring, right? So can you speak more towards that and your experience at Rutgers with that?
Sure. So because the way that like Rutgers engineering works is that you have to like fulfill a lot of like other electives for humanities and technical electives. So based on that list, you can kind of see which courses like kind of group together into like a certain like theme or major. So for me, that was economics, because I was also interested in that in high school. So I kind of had that in mind. And when I looked at the coursework and what was on the list for industrial engineering electives, a lot of them were econ classes. And then like the advisors helped me like plan that all out. And then so I'm able to finish 2 majors still in 4 years, alhamdulillah. So it's just, when you look at those lists and like talk to your advisors, you can see like where the groupings are and how you can still finish on time.
Or anything else you want to add?
Not really, just come to Rutgers engineering. Honestly, like Rutgers itself is just, it's huge. I think Obama said like America converges here. So I've met so many different types of people. and different types of engineers. So when you all work together on like a problem or just talking about something, and then even within like the Muslim community, it's like there's always something that you can learn, and the environment is just really great. And then with engineering, you're just pushed to do your best, and there's so many people that are there to help you for like networking and jobs and internships and like master's programs or whatever. So there's always someone there to help you. It is sometimes a matter of you asking for that help and taking that step, but that's kind of anywhere you go. But Rutgers is like the place that will have an opportunity for you. And you might think like, oh, it's such a big school, like how am I gonna find my way through? But like there's something specific just for you, and like just keep your eyes out for it, inshallah.
Alrighty, awesome. Thank you so much, Feha.
No
And
problem.
we're probably going to be sending out a form after this event because I know Feha brought it up. If any of these presentations interest you or you want to learn more about the schools, we'll send out a form and you can let us know which schools you're interested in learning more about, and we'll share your contact information with the panelists, inshallah.
All right, well, good luck, everyone.
Thanks again.
No problem. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Alrighty. Assalamu alaikum, Yahya, are you there? Can you hear us?
Alexa, hey, how's it going?
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So if you want to just quickly give a quick introduction about who you are and what you majored in, and talk a little bit about your school to get started with this.
Sure. So my name's Yahya. I went to City Tech for computer engineering technology, and I graduated in December and got a job in the health field as a QA analyst working with SQL.
Cool. And what was the reason that you were interested in City Tech? Was it because of the engineering field you were interested in? Was it because of proximity?
Well, it was a little bit of both. So senior year of high school, I knew I wanted to do something with computer engineering. I applied to a bunch of colleges. I applied to City Tech was one of them, City College, which is also under the CUNY universities, and then NYIT. I ended up going with City Tech because it was closer to home. It was more affordable, and it just seemed like a good start.
Cool. And you said in high school that you always wanted to do computer engineering, right? So I guess it
Yeah.
wasn't really trying to figure out more of what you wanted to do.
Mhm.
But did City Tech, 'cause I know Rutgers had like a pre-deciding engineering course, it was Introduction to Engineering, where they kind of talked about the different engineering fields that was offered at Rutgers.
Mhm.
Did you have a similar course or something to let you figure out which engineering, well, not you because you knew which engineering field you wanted to go to, but if someone was interested in engineering but not really sure which engineering field to do?
No, they didn't really have a course like that, but they I'm pretty sure you can like just take a few classes like the first year and then declare your major within like the first 2 semesters. So you're free to like take a introductory course to like civil engineering, computer engineering, or electrical engineering. To get a bachelor in computer engineering, you actually had to get your associates in electrical engineering just to like get familiar with electricity and everything.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you
Yeah.
speak more? Can you speak more to the getting your associates in electrical?
Yeah, so the way the bachelor's degrees like worked out is they like put you in electrical engineering courses, and there's actually like an electrical engineer bachelor's that they also provide in the school, but with computer engineering, they as an associates, everybody has to do electrical engineering just to like get familiar with the math. Like you have to do like take up to like calculus 3 and everything, and you have to take a bunch of electrical courses because like computers are all like the base of a computer is all electricity and current, so you have to like know, you have to get that like solid foundation in electricity to get up to like computer chips and everything because electricity runs through those chips.
Cool. And then I guess in terms of speaking more towards like the atmosphere of City Tech, did you you commuted, right?
Yeah, so
Could you-
it's like
yeah.
right next to the train station.
Okay, cool. So getting there is not something that's difficult.
No, not at all.
There are some people who are asking about scholarship opportunities with City Tech, and just in general, I guess I'm going to start asking this with all of my presentations.
Mhm.
Did your school offer merit-based scholarships, I guess, based off of your application and whatever grades and SAT scores you had, or were there scholarships that you could apply to?
So with CUNYs, they do FAFSA a lot. So like a lot of the people I went to school with, they didn't pay tuition. They just had it all covered with FAFSA, which is based on like your financial standing. So, and tuition isn't too much if you're in state, but it's a little around like Rutgers if you're out of state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of, I don't know if you could speak toward this or know anyone that had experience with this, for transferring between schools.
Mhm.
I guess before that, in terms of applying to the schools, did you have to apply specifically to your school, or could you apply, or you just had to apply to City Tech, and then you could choose what major program you're interested in afterwards?
So what I did personally is when I was applying to City Tech, I had to declare a major. But I've seen people who didn't declare a major until like after they applied. So I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Yeah, so just, I guess, did you have to apply to a specific school? But if you declared your major, could you switch between schools depending on if you were interested in something else?
Yeah, definitely. You could totally switch between. You can change schools. You can change your major. I think at any point during your stay at City Tech.
Trying to see if there's anything else. Is there anything else that people should know about City Tech, or specifically your program there?
Well, I'm like City Tech. It's a very like relaxed school. The professors there more often than not are like they want you to understand what you're doing more than like just getting the grade and getting out. So it's a great opportunity to make connections with the professors. I recommend networking as much as you possibly can, because more often than not, it's the connections you make that get you a job straight out of college than like your grades. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then speaking of networking, were there different, I don't know if you would know this, but were there different companies that had connections with City Tech, or different career fairs that people could go to learn more about different companies?
Yeah, so they definitely had career fairs at City Tech, like at least once a year, I think. And they also had like club fairs where there were internship opportunities, which I really recommend taking, because during the internship, they try to usually hire you right out of college. So this wasn't me, but one of my friends, he got an internship at IBM while he was at City Tech, and they hired him as soon as he graduated. So he's working at IBM now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that was an internship during school, or was it like a
Yeah.
co-op?
It was an internship that he did during school when he was a freshman or junior at City Tech.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
I guess if there's anything else that you want to say, or why people should consider your school, just to let us know.
It's very relaxed. There's a lot of nice people out there, like in the school. It's a great place to like make connections, because like the connections you make in college, they're gonna take you pretty far. Like because like as soon as somebody gets hired, they usually get like a bonus if they can recommend someone like a year or two after they've been hired. So yeah, just try to make as much connections as you can. Like this goes for any college, really.
Cool.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you so much for telling us more about City Tech.
Mhm.
And if you guys are interested in engineering and some of the majors that City Tech offers, then definitely check out their website and look into applying. Thank you so much, Yahya. We appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
All right. Assalamualaikum.
Excellent.
Alrighty. Assalamualaikum, Wasim, are you there?
Walaikum salam. Yeah, I am.
Okay, you can see my screen and everything.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So we're going to jump in for Temple specifically, because I know you're doing a lot of majors, mashallah. But specifically talking about computer science, and since this is the tech part of our program. So if you want to just talk a little bit as to who you are, explain what you're majoring in, and just why you chose Temple University.
Okay. So, assalamu alaikum. My name is Sayed Wasim. I'm majoring in math, computer science, and neuroscience at Temple University. I chose Temple because it was the cheapest option. Because I plan on going to grad school, and I know that's expensive. So, undergrad really doesn't matter for grad school as long as you do your best and do make the best of what you have at that place. So I decided to go with the cheapest option so I can spend a little bit more when it comes to grad school. So that was the main driving force for me going to Temple.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that we talked about at the beginning of our program in terms of what to consider when applying to schools. Because I know a lot of times Muslims get caught up in names. I mean, speaking as someone who's gone to Rutgers, a state school, people are like, oh, it's a state school. But alhamdulillah, I got a lot of opportunities from there, and I didn't have to break the bank in going to school.
Exactly right.
So in terms of the application process, so this is something that confuses me because I think Temple is on the Common App, but you can also apply through their website.
Right. So Temple has 2 options to apply, and then they also have many options within it. So if you Temple is one of the few schools that allows you to also substitute an essay for your SAT if you don't do as well on your SAT, if you're not a good standardized test taker. So that's definitely an attractive option for people who aren't as good as others in taking standardized tests, but they know they can display their skills and other attributes in other ways than just taking a 4-hour standardized test. So Temple is unique in that. So that's definitely an option if you have it. In terms of their honors application as well, is kind of confusing because as soon as you apply to Temple, you're automatically considered for their honors program. So there's no separate honors application, and that goes for either the Common App or the application through their website. So yeah, it was pretty confusing at first for me, but someone just sat me down and told me that, so it cleared a lot of stuff up.
Cool. Oh, so you have to specifically apply for the honors school at Temple?
No, so that was the thing. Like any other college, you'd have to specifically apply for example, Penn State applying to Schreier's and things like that. But at Temple, everybody is considered for it. So it makes it more, I think it makes it more competitive in that aspect, but it also makes it a little easier because there's no separate application for the honors program itself.
Cool. And then I guess for the honors program, because people are asking, does it have a requirement that you have to stay on campus for a year?
No, there's no requirement. Actually, I'm a commuter, so I don't stay on campus at all. And the good thing about Temple honors is if you don't get in in your freshman year, you can apply at the end of your freshman year, at the end of your sophomore year, up until the end of your junior year, so that your senior year can be honors. So that's one difference I've noticed about Temple honors is that they let you sort of matriculate in, quote unquote, unlike other colleges who say if you're not in the honors program, you can't get in, period.
Cool. And I guess speaking more towards what you're majoring in and applying in that respect, did you have to apply to a specific school at Temple, or did you just apply to Temple and then figure out your major once you got accepted?
So the thing with that is you can go in to Temple undecided, and then if you do that, it leaves a lot of options up to you because as you can see, you have all these schools listed there. But it's kind of difficult in Temple. For example, trying to switch from, let's say, College of Science and Technology to Fox Business School, because if you want to do that, then you have to take a lot of prereqs to get into Fox Business School. Whereas if you come in undecided, you can take your gen eds, which are general education credits that everybody at Temple has to take to graduate. You can take those your first few semesters and a couple of classes in different colleges to see which you like. And then as an undecided major, you actually have less prereqs than other people when going into a certain college. So let's say if you go in undecided and you want to go into Fox School of Business, you would have to take less prereqs than me as someone who's committed to College of Science Technology would have to take if I wanted to switch to Fox School of Business.
Okay, so you can go in undecided, but attach yourself to a specific school, and then figure out your major afterwards. Sorry, I just want to make sure I understood that correctly.
Yeah, so you can go undecided, like period undecided, just like you can dip your fingers in every school, or you dip your toes in every school, or you can go in undecided into specific school. So if you want to do something science technology related, but you don't know exactly what, you can go undecided into CST. So those options are also available, and you can do that for any school there, because every school has separate majors. So I guess that gives you a lot of options, and sometimes it can be daunting and somewhat overwhelming as well.
Cool. So for the majors that you're doing, do they fall under one school?
Yeah, so that's why it was
Okay.
kind of easy for me to do, because they all fall under CST. So Temple is kind of weird because computer science also falls under College of Science Technology and not College of Engineering, unlike Drexel, Penn, and other Philly schools in the area.
Cool. Trying to see if I have any other questions. Does Temple do early decision or early action?
So I think they do early action because I do remember applying pretty early to them, but they don't do early decision. I think it's due to the fact that they're a state school. But I do know that early action, I was talking to advisors, I do know that early action gives you the ability or a greater chance to earn more scholarships and things like that. So that's why I applied early action.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I know for early decision, there's less of a chance for you to actually get scholarships because you have to go to that school. But we
Right.
were talking about the difference between early action and early decision.
Mhm.
So that's definitely something that you would need to research for your specific schools, because early action, you can still decide that you don't want to go to that school. You're not committed to the university.
Right, and it allows you to apply to other
Um,
schools as well.
Is there anything else you want to add about Temple or your program that you would want people to know about?
If you like the city life and if you like meeting new
Wait, we
people,
can't hear you unless it's just me.
can you hear me now? How about now?
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's just me. 1 second.
Is this better? No?
Maybe I should unmute myself. Now, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So sorry. Anything that you want to say about Temple as to why you think people should apply to your school, or more about your program?
So if Temple is in the city, so if you like meeting new people on a daily basis, then it's definitely a place to go. And there's so many students there, so it's hard to see someone twice unless you try. And there's just a lot of buildings. There's a lot of good food nearby. You always have other schools to go to for MSA events, Drexel, Penn, U Sciences, LaSalle is also pretty close. So if you like that, if you like a more social life, but you also like to work hard and have a competitive atmosphere, Temple is definitely a place to go.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much for joining.
Yep.
And we'll actually have you again in the program when we talk about general sciences.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
All right. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Mike-san. Assalamualaikum, Kauthar, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Me.
We can hear you, but I don't think we can see you yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I don't know why. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Hey, Kauthar.
Assalamu alaikum.
Cool. Okay, so if you want to start with a quick introduction of what you did at Rutgers SAS, and yeah.
Hi guys, Assalamu alaikum. So my name is Kauser. I'm recently graduated from Rutgers University in this past May, and I majored in biomathematics and minored in Africana Studies.
Cool. So I guess, do you want to start with talking about the Honors College? Because I know a lot of people had questions about that and about that and dorming on campus, what was required for that. And is that something that you had to apply to, or is it something that you're automatically considered for?
So when I first applied to Rutgers, so my year was a little different because my year was actually the first year that the Honors College was even like established. So we actually didn't have to apply at all. They kind of just selected students randomly based on like their SAT scores, their grades in school, whether they took like certain AP classes, and then they kind of made their determination based off of that. And then also they were trying to fill a quota at that time. But I think now, I think after the third year that they accepted, they actually started an application. So I think you actually have to fill out an application to be considered to get into the Honors College. In terms of the other requirements, though, they're kind of the same. I know the only other thing they changed was that they also increased the GPA requirement. I forget what it was, but I think they increased it from like a 3.5 to like a 3.7 or 3.8, something like that. Another thing that was, like you said about the housing, that was something that you do have to do. It's mandatory. You have to live on campus for your freshman year, your first year of being there. The Honors College is actually only a freshman dorm. After your freshman year, they kind of like kick you out. They kind of tell you kind of have to like find your way on campus, and they do offer like honors housing on campus, but you have to go through the Rutgers lottery system in order to get there, and it's not promised or like determined that you'd actually get to live in those areas, but it's something that you can try, or you can live on one of the dorms, or if you're someone who wanted to commute anyway, you can commute after that.
Cool. So I know Rutgers does merit-based scholarships for all programs. They also still offer that for the Honors College as well?
Yeah, so
Okay.
one thing that a lot of people don't know is that the merit scholarships that you get, they didn't explain this to us, but the merit scholarships that you get through Rutgers are actually not tied to the Honors College at all. So you actually don't really, I think Honors College students are promised merit scholarships, like even in the case that like, let's say something happens and you're not able to be in the Honors College anymore, it won't affect your scholarship. Like you'll still be able to have it. So that's something to keep in mind, like just in case the Honors College, because the Honors College is very difficult. A lot of the material and the classes that you take are very different from like this typical like what do you call it, like the population of Rutgers. A lot of them don't take some of the classes that we take. Another option for you is that Rutgers has not only the Honors College, but they also have the Honors Program. And the funny thing is, even though Rutgers advertises the Honors College to be different, the Honors Program and Honors College are very similar. And so even if you don't want to go through the process of living on campus and being in the Honors College program, you can be in the Honors Program and apply. I think the Honors Program has like an application process. And once you reach like a GPA, you get a certain GPA, then you can apply, and then you just take like certain classes that they have for you to take. But yeah, that's really it about the Honors College. Yeah, there's certain
Yeah.
classes that you have to take. You have to take like an honor seminar. You have to take like a FIGS. They have to make you take like a FIGS, which is like a, I forget what it means, but it's like a class that freshmen have to take, and it kind of introduces you to like an interesting topic in like the sciences or like math, technology, history, any like interesting subject like that.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's really important about the point that you brought up about the honors college, because honors college started a year after me,
Yes.
but I don't think till now it's offered for engineering, or they just recently added engineering to it.
Yeah, they just
So you could be part of like the honors academy for engineering or something different, but you were not required to stay on campus. And you could take honors classes and stuff, but still there was when people hear honors, there's so many different categories. You don't have to be a part of
exactly.
any honors program and still graduate with honors. So so all of it gets confusing.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
thank you so much for explaining that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. And just about the point about the scholarships, I
Mhm.
know most merit-based scholarships are usually based on your GPA, and so a lot of them usually their GPA requirement is around like the 4.0 range, or like I think 3.5 and above. So as long as you stay within that GPA, I think at the end of the school year, and not even per semester, then you'll be able to keep your scholarship for the whole 4 years or however long your hours is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Trying to see if there's anything else. I guess you switched majors a couple of times. So do you want to talk more towards switching majors within SAS and how that experience was for you?
Yeah. So when I first came to Rutgers, I actually was pre-med. So I came in wanting to be a bio major. Um, but then I soon came to realize that I did not want to be a doctor and I did not want to do medicine for various reasons. So I decided to look into public health. And so I looked into public health and I also did not like that. So then I found out that Rutgers has this cool major called biomathematics, which I've never heard of in any other school. Basically, biomathematics is kind of like it's kind of like biostatistics and kind of studying. So basically, the easiest way I explain it to people, whoever does biomathematics are usually the people that can like describe the trends of like the coronavirus and how it travels through like society and stuff like that. One thing that I would say about like choosing a major, take your time with choosing it. Don't feel rushed in choosing a major. A lot of times when you come into college, you can become very overwhelmed because a lot of times you'll realize that there's so many majors that you didn't even hear of. A lot of times we only hear of like the typical ones, like, oh, there's engineering, there's this, there's that. Then you don't hear of like the smaller interdisciplinary majors. Like I know one of my friends who studied like cognitive science, which is something I didn't even know that Rutgers had. And she was able to study like how the brain works, not on like a scientific level, but more of like a less science level, but more of like a history level and also on like a nerve level, which was really cool, and how that affects languages and stuff like that. Like Rutgers has so many interesting majors. And so I think it's also important to go to like a major and minor fairs that Rutgers has in order to really do research on the different majors that the School of Arts and Sciences has, and kind of like where you kind of fit into that. But not, like, take your time with the process. I feel like sometimes we can feel rushed in doing things like that, but take your time with it. Figure out like what majors you feel would fit you, kind of like what your interests are, and kind of like where you feel like you fit in terms of taking classes and like your trajectory and stuff.
Cool. Yeah, the major and minor fairs are definitely something um, that's super important. I know they have one for business. I don't think they have one for engineering because we take courses like introductory engineering courses to kind of
Right.
understand what engineering field we're interested in. But those are
Mhm.
definitely something that's super great because you can talk about the different look into the different programs you might be interested in, and exactly what you said, you might even learn about majors that you didn't even know existed but you might end up loving and wanting to do.
Right.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to add about Rutgers or why you think people should apply?
I I love Rutgers. I think Rutgers is a really, really great school. I think a lot of times, because we live in New Jersey, a lot of us live in New Jersey and we're from here. So a lot of times we kind of like hear negative connotations about Rutgers and how like it's too close to home. And Rutgers is like it's a public university and we hear a lot of negative things about it. But Rutgers is really, really good, especially if you want to be an engineer or like anything within the STEM field, Rutgers is really, really good. They have a lot of programs. No matter, Rutgers is very resourceful. They have so many programs, no matter what type of major you're trying to do. For example, if you want to go into medicine, if you're a minority student, they have like programs on campus for minority students to get into medicine. And even if you're not a minority student, they have so many programs for you to do medicine. They also have programs. I know, like if you do engineering, they also have like programs for you to do. They have access to so many resources. If you're someone who wants to do research, Rutgers is really, really, really big on research. As I think is one of the top like research institutions in the United States.
It is.
We're
Yeah.
really, really big on research. And so what I think is yeah, one of the programs that Rutgers will advertise and you'll see like bombarded in your inbox is the Rusty Research Program, which is really, really good. And the cool thing about it is no matter what major you're doing in college or whether you're even undecided, you can take part in the Rusty Research Program, and it's something that looks good on your resume and something that looks good when you're applying to jobs after you graduate from college because you took time to do research and work close with a faculty member on like something that they're working on. So it's really cool. Like Rutgers is amazing. Have so many resources. I think also as like Muslim students and going to a public university, we have one of the largest MSAs. And so there's a huge community there. Also, Rutgers has been making like recent advancements in terms of like being more welcoming and accommodating for the Muslim students. Like I know they recently made a wudu station and stuff in the Livingston Student Center.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which is really, the wudu station is beautiful, but they recently made it. So they're just trying to find like different ways to be more accommodating to Muslim students on campus. And I think it's also a great place to kind of like let your voice be heard, especially if that's something that you're interested in, and kind of like having a safe space to be Muslim on campus, because that's important.
Cool. I'm just going to add one thing before we move on to business, just because someone asked. In terms of the average SAT scores for Rutgers admission, I'm not sure. I'd have to check online, but for if you have to decide a major when going into Rutgers, you don't when you've accepted the school, but you do have to decide on a school.
Yes.
So if you're interested in that's why I gave the advice when I was talking about engineering. If you're interested in engineering, or you're not sure if you're interested in engineering, but you might be, and you get accepted into engineering and SAS, it's better to start in engineering just because it's easier to transfer to SAS than to do vice versa, start off in SAS and to transfer into engineering. And those, what is it called? The prereq courses that you have to take in engineering often cover a lot of SAS stuff anyway.
Yeah, and another thing too on that, so also keep in mind that when you're doing the Rutgers application, each school offers different scholarships, which is kind of weird. Like sometimes if let's say you're interested in engineering and you want to go and you apply to the engineering school, sometimes you might get more money through the engineering school than if you came to Rutgers through SAS. So that's something to keep in mind too when you're like budgeting and trying to figure out like tuition costs and stuff like that.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kauthar, for joining and telling us about SAS.
Assalamu alaikum, guys.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Alrighty. Sanat, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Assalamu alaikum.
Cool. All right, all right, we're gonna be jumping into our business portion, and sorry, we are running about 5 minutes late. So we're gonna start with Rowan University, and Sanat's gonna speak to give a little bit of an introduction of herself and what she's currently studying.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sanat Farhad. I go to Rowan University. I am currently in business major. I am also minoring in pre-med. So basically, I was a bio major earlier in my freshman year of college, and then I switched over to business only because I found that I had a passion for business, but I also wanted to maintain my medical side interest as well. So I had gotten a pre-med minor that made sure that I had all my science classes required when I wanted to apply for med school in the future.
Cool. And something that I do want to address quickly, just because you mentioned that you're doing pre-med, pre-med is not a minor, right? It's you take classes so that you can apply for med school, but it's not like I have a minor or major in pre-med, right? Can you
Well,
talk more towards that?
yes. So Rowan University does have a pre-med minor.
Oh, cool.
They have 4 courses that you do need to take to fulfill that minor, but you could always take science courses that you think that you need for medical school. So personally, what I did was I looked at all the medical schools that I wanted to apply in for the future, and I compared all the classes that I needed to take in order to get into that school, so the prereq. So after taking a look at those classes, I just implemented that into my courses that I need to take throughout the rest of my years of college. So then I am all set for the application process for medical school. But technically they do fall under the pre-med minor if you want to put it under a little category. But honestly, it's just all about the classes that you take that are on your transcript.
Sorry, I was on mute. So yeah, that's something that's super interesting, just about the pre-med aspect of Rowan, because Rutgers, and we can talk more about this at SAS, Rutgers and most schools do not have a pre-med like specific minor or major for that. You would just exactly what you said. You would look at the schools that you're interested in applying to and make sure that you've completed all the courses that you need for applying to those schools. So for applying to Rowan, is it something that's on the Common App? Or do you have to apply directly on their website? And did you have to apply to specific schools in Rowan, or could you just apply to the university?
So I'm pretty sure that it's on both. So you can apply through their website and then on the Common App. Personally, for me, if I remember correctly, I did apply through the Common App, and I just applied to the university in general. And then I just chose what major that I wanted to do. And then they just put you whatever college within their university is. So when I applied, I applied for a bio major, and then I went from there. But then when I wanted to switch over to business, I did have to apply for business school, but I did need to take stats, which was a prereq for transfer students who wanted to transfer over their majors. So I did take that over the summer, and then I applied. It's a little form that you have to apply from what major you're switching up from, and then they accept you based on your GPA and you taking a prereqs.
Okay, that's super interesting. So it was an application that you had to do for switching. Okay. And then in terms of deciding what major you're going to do at business school, was there any like courses that you took to figure that out, or did you talk to people? How did you decide that?
So currently I'm majoring in supply chain logistics, but like in the future, I wanted to do business administration, which I would have to go to grad school for, which is through Rowan as well. So personally for me, I always love to be the boss of things. I love taking leadership and taking during events, certain group activities and such. So with business administration, basically, you're covering accounting, MIS, which is management information systems, marketing, basically everything you need to have like incorporated into somebody who wants to take role of like a company or anything like that. So that's why I like went towards business administration in a way. Plus like in the future, inshallah, like when I do go to med school and I do complete med school, I want to open up my own practice. So having that business major, especially in business administration, would help me really, really well. Also say I do not go to medical school, which inshallah I do, but let's just say that doesn't happen. I do have my science classes, and I also have a business degree that I could use like in the health system or work as a health administrator and such in like a company in the hospital. So that was like my logic behind like figuring out what my major was and like what I want to do with it in the future, basically.
Cool. Is there anything else that the audience should know about Rowan University or your major and experience there?
Yes. So Rowan University, people love talk trash about it because it's just small and stuff. But honestly, it's a wonderful campus. They have great studying places around campus. Personally, for me, for like the business school, I found there to be a lot of opportunities for me. They have prof jobs, which is just for Rowan students and alumni. it's a website where there's jobs posted daily where students can apply for, and that's only accessible through for Rowan alumni, Rowan students. Also, they also have a professional development center where it's people who help you build your resume, do interview sessions with you, give you just advice on where to take your career and what are the next steps. So I feel like Rowan University does have those resources for students to make sure that they're set up for success. So do apply to Rowan. It's a great campus, and don't be afraid of it. So, and good luck to all the
Awesome.
students applying.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sanat, for joining and telling us more about your school.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so next we have Temple. Hoda, can you hear us?
Yep. Do you want me to start?
Yes.
Okay.
So to start, just give a quick introduction of who you are and what you're majoring at Temple University.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Huda Sulaiman. I am obviously currently at Temple. I'm a double major. I'm in my junior year as a finance and marketing major at the Fox School of Business. Overall, I'm just kind of going through a few little pointers when it comes to Temple. So programs such opportunities that are specifically unique. I can't think of like specifically like a certain program opportunity. In general, Temple just has a really wide variety of programs. Think of it as like kind of similar to Rutgers, where it's not exactly the same thing because our Pennsylvania equivalent to Rutgers would be Penn State, but Temple is a very large school, a lot of majors, a lot of diversity. So if you're someone going to college, whether you do know what you want to do, or you have a little bit of a general idea, or you're not sure at all, it's a good option. In terms of its location, it's in Philadelphia. It's in North Philadelphia. A lot of people like to talk trash about the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. In general, security on campus is pretty great. I've never really felt unsafe walking around campus. The surrounding area can be a little bit dangerous, but again, just don't be in the wrong place, the wrong time. And it is really cool to be in Philly. Being where Temple is, you're not far from Center City. You're not far from West Philly, where like UPenn, U Sciences are. So there's a lot you can do potentially. Delaware's not even far from Philly area. And there's a lot to explore. So aside from maybe campus life, just being in Philly is pretty cool. If you guys are into any type of like city stuff, whether it just be the food scene, attractions, obviously a lot of that has changed during current times, but inshallah, it's not going to be that way forever. So that's another thing to consider when thinking about off-campus life and if you are planning to like move to school. Something I wish I knew when applying to my school or putting a little bit more of an emphasis, I'm trying to think. For me, I applied as undecided business and then decided on finance and marketing later on. I can't think of anything in particular, to be honest. I think the application process was pretty easy. Temple is on the Common App, and I don't know if it's still this way. I know Rutgers, a lot of kids my senior year complained that Rutgers is actually not on the Common App. Temple is. Application process is pretty easy, pretty standard. There's nothing really that shocks you. In terms of programs, I know a lot of people, the honors program is something that some applicants may want to consider. So there's the university honors program, and then there's also the Fox honors program, which is unique to the business school. So I'm part of both. So there's not a ton of differences, but one thing you'll notice in the honors program is that there are smaller classes. Obviously, there are specific honors classes. Generally, curriculum-wise, they'll maybe differ by a few assignments or maybe a special edition of a textbook. I'm not going to lie, the content of the class isn't going to be insanely different than taking it regularly. I would say the size and the professors will differ a bit more.
So,
and then the way the program works, yeah.
Just a quick question on that, because Wasim talked about earlier that for Temple, you didn't have to necessarily apply to the honors school. You were just considered for that. Is that the same thing for the honors college for Fox Business School?
It is, yes. So actually, I was not part of the Fox Honors College upon my application to Temple. I was accepted into honors based off of like my SAT/GPA, and that was called University Honors. And then I got an email after my fall semester that I qualified for Fox Honors. So yeah, I did not apply for it. And if you start off non-honors too, and you are following a good track in terms of GPA and stuff like that, you can qualify. It is harder to do like once you've already started, but like if you're someone who's dedicated to getting into it, you absolutely can. And I know people who have done it. In terms of the way honors works, I guess Wasim kind of talked about university honors. So I don't want to go into it too much to bore you guys now that I know Wasim had talked about it. For Fox, the only thing that does differ, well, a few different, you have special advising in Fox, even different than the honors advisors or Fox advisors. And then there's a Business Honor Student Association. I'm not gonna lie, I'm technically part of it based off of my grades. I'm not really that active in it, but they do have their own events. And the business school is very big on something called SPOs, or student professional organizations. So depending on your business major, there are a lot of professional orgs you can join to make connections. Again, I'm not super active in those. I kind of prefer to network and apply for jobs and do all of that on my own, but that's a completely personal preference type of thing. If you're interested in professional organizations, there is a huge variety at Temple. And then the Fox Honors Program makes you take 10 specific business courses in honors. So whereas university would say just 10 courses overall, so it could be a gen ed, it could be a general math course, it could be a core course. For Fox, it has to be specifically 10 business courses that you take honors. So going off of that, I don't want to take forever. In terms of, again, specialize the application process, no. I didn't have too many reservations applying to Temple. Both my sisters went to Temple, so it wasn't like I was unfamiliar with it. My dad actually is a doctor at Temple Hospital. Now that is different than the university, but like it's still same affiliation. So I was pretty familiar with the school itself. My older sister had a similar academic track to mine. I was pretty enthusiastic about applying because I wasn't super set on like exactly what I wanted upon entering college. So I think it was good that I chose Temple because it allowed for a diverse breadth of opportunities, and I don't regret it. I've made a good group of friends. Diversity at Temple is pretty good. Overall, you just get a lot. There are a lot of Muslims. The MSA is pretty big at Temple, definitely not as huge as Rutgers, just because I think Rutgers has been established for a much longer time. But Temple's is pretty big. I was the vice president of the MSA last year. This year, I'm not as active in it just by coincidence. And then obviously COVID happened, so everything they are doing now is virtual, but they definitely are still there. They're still doing as much as they can, as I'm sure the MSAs at all schools are making an effort to do. So diversity-wise is great if that's something that you want to consider. And something important to note, yeah, again, I talked about that. So specific to business, my major in the business world, I do finance and marketing. That's pretty versatile. You can do a lot with finance. You can do consulting. You can do corporate finance. You can do a financial analyst job. There's a lot you can do with finance. It's very general. You can work for a investment company. You can work for a consulting firm. You can work for a regular companies such as, like, we know Mariam worked for L'Oreal, or even, again, you could work for a pharmaceutical company. There's a lot that you can do with finance. It's very general. There's a lot of positions, and it's great to have knowledge in finance because it's very applicable to almost every company. There are financial positions available everywhere. Just for reference, like recently, alhamdulillah, I've secured my internship for summer 2021, and like I've applied to a variety of positions. I first got a corporate banking internship for PNC, and I worked a banking internship for WSFS this past summer. And then this upcoming summer, inshallah, what I've decided on, I got another internship for General Mills. So I'm going to be working as a financial analyst there. So again, this just shows there's a lot you can do. Then with marketing is kind of like the people study of business. So that's also very versatile and very helpful to have, even if you're not a business major at all, having a minor or even a double major in marketing, because it's not super hard to do as a major, like, and to add it on. Doing just marketing would be a pretty light course load, which is why I did finance and marketing, because I wanted to have both. Very useful skill, again, because no matter what you're doing in life, you're always selling something to someone in some form. So a lot of variety you can do with my majors. And then something super surprising about the business school, they are known for their MBA program. That's supposed to be pretty good. And MBA is something that I'm interested in further down the line. I'm a junior right now, so I do have some time. We know Mariam has actually considered getting an MBA herself and may still be trying to do that. It's definitely something that it takes a while to get back into if you're working a full-time job post-grad. But yeah, they do have a pretty good MBA program, so that's something to note.
And something I want to stress about that, it's a decent MBA program, and it's completely online.
Yes, that's one thing too. So a lot of people are getting MBAs while they're working full-time jobs, because you're not going to quit just to go to school. You know, you're an adult, you need income. So yeah, you can do that after work hours, or if they're asynchronous courses, you can do them on your own time, which is ideal for someone working a real job. And then how do you network? Okay, so this is one thing. Temple as a school, and this is the last thing I want to talk about for Fox, they love to gas up their, they call it CSPD, which is like the Student Professional Development Center, and like their resume services. I'm going to tell you, I'm someone who likes to work independently, and I don't think they've done very much for me. I've pretty much done everything on my own. I think when it comes to getting positions as a business major, a lot of people tell you career fairs. Here's a big secret. In a big school, career fairs don't really do that much for you. The recruiter can have a great conversation with you. Their chances of remembering you probably aren't that high because there are a lot of students. And yeah, sometimes you'll have specific affairs to a certain major, but in general, I'm going to say I'm kind of anti-career fair, and I am pro network on your own with people that you happen to know. Even like I work at a Starbucks talking to customers because I work in a suburb where there's a lot of people working corporate jobs and like people at farm companies who can connect you. Another thing I think is extremely important is quantity. Apply to internships in mass quantities. What's the hardest thing as a student, and I finally, alhamdulillah, I've gotten to the point where I think I'm past this, get your foot in the door at that first internship. And from there, I promise everything gets easier. I didn't believe anyone when they told me that, but get your foot in the door at one internship and work your way up. Like once you get that one internship, it opens up so many more doors. Another pointer, you can use Indeed, LinkedIn, Handshake, but a network that I got both of my internships with this past month has been Ripple Match. It's a much easier website to use. It helps you much more specifically navigate your career search to your major. It's much easier, and the website has a better algorithm. It just makes the application process much easier, and your chances of getting viewed by recruiters much higher. Look into it. I don't want to keep blabbing about Ripple Match because like that's not what I'm here for, and someone else will have to speak soon. But a very good website, and I got 2 big internships, which guys, I'm not any special talented person. Like if I hadn't used the website, my chances of getting viewed by those recruiters were probably much lower. So again, quantity, get your foot in the door at that one place. And I'm not saying not to go to career fairs or not to network, but I'm going to say those are a lot less important. Just hop in the process. It's hard when you're in school and you're taking exams. The last thing you want to do on your nights is apply to internships. But trust me, it's that grind that will get you where you are. I am literally pure evidence of that. And I'm not anyone special. You just got to put your mind to it and like get over being lazy. I'm someone who likes to sleep a lot. Yeah, but get over it. Bump out those applications. Get your foot in the door somewhere. And from there, it's just going to be upward growth, inshallah. And if you do know people in your personal life, social life, network with them, network people on LinkedIn. And then career fairs, I'm not saying not to go to them, but a little bit more secondary. But I think just do that and have a good personality and be able to just talk to people. And you might be shy. Not everyone has a talkative personality, but just break out of your shell. You're going to have to if you're a business student. And from there, inshallah, you can just give yourself success. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to talk about.
So just a quick note on career fairs. The only thing I would say is exactly kind of what you said in terms of the larger career fairs. It's a great opportunity for people to go if they're not sure where they want to apply and stuff, just to learn about different companies.
Yeah.
But in terms of like success at career fairs, I think the only career fair I had success at was one that was specific for my major, like industrial engineering career fair at Rutgers, which had literally like 5 companies there, and there was a total of like 80 people that went there.
Yeah, so that's a good point.
Because you're able to connect more easily and they'll remember who you are.
Yeah, so for Temple, here's the thing. When it comes to the business school, they don't have them specifically for every major. I believe actuarial science has their own career fair. And I think accounting has their own career fair, but between finance and marketing, I don't think everyone has their own career fair. So if you do have one specific to your major, I agree with Mariam that that's different. But whenever it's a general career fair, I'm going to say don't hold much weight with that. It's going to be a lot harder to stand out. I would say just look up good places to work. When you're a business student, look at like company cultures and just the way everything works, and think about, you'll learn this when you start intro business classes, but essentially just like look more into companies that you like and then progress and like see if they have internships. But also when you're getting your first internship, I would say be less picky because again, you got to get your foot in the door somewhere. But yeah, alhamdulillah, trust me, I never believed anyone when they told me this stuff. I was like very cynical. Oh, I'm never going to make it anywhere. Just get your foot in the door somewhere. And from there, it does get easier.
Cool. All righty. Thanks so much, Hoda, for joining us and telling us more about Temple and different opportunities and advice on career fairs. That was awesome.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
All righty. Okay. Sabiha, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. All right. Do you want to start by giving a quick introduction of who you are and what you're currently majoring in?
Sure. Assalamualaikum, guys. My name is Sabiha Memon. I'm currently majoring in supply chain at the Rutgers Business School. I actually recently transferred from Newark to New Brunswick. So if you guys have any questions about like the whole transfer process, don't hesitate to ask me that. The Rutgers Business School offers accounting, finance, leadership and management, MIS, marketing, and supply chain. So there are definitely like a lot of different things that you guys could major in depending on what you're interested in.
So something I did want to ask and talk more towards is a lot of times with Rutgers for their different schools. I can talk about engineering because I was in engineering, like between Rutgers, Camden, Newark, and New Brunswick. Engineering only offered at New Brunswick. And then if you are part of SAS, there are some majors that are offered at New Brunswick that aren't offered at Newark and vice versa. But for Rutgers Business School, that's unique, right? Because it's similar or the same programs that are offered between the two.
Yeah, so for the most part, you will get the same exact majors for both schools. The only difference I can tell you is that for over here, you see it says Management Information Systems. So that's something that is going to be unique to just Newark, from my understanding. Like that class in particular, I think the New Brunswick version of it is Computer Applications. So it's very similar, but the name, there's just a difference in the name.
Cool. And then in terms of applying for Rutgers, Newark, Camden, New Brunswick, it's all on one app, right? And when you consider schools, you consider what is it called? Like this, like SAS versus engineering versus business and all of that. What has been, I guess if you want to talk more actually towards transferring from Newark to New Brunswick, and understanding that process. So I know a lot of my friends did this, and I think it's just super important for people to understand that, especially because sometimes you'll start off at Newark or Camden, but New Brunswick is closer to you, especially if you're in ISCJ's community. It's like right next door.
Right.
So if you want to talk to more of that experience, and if there was like an application process involved with that.
Sure. So the super cool thing about Rutgers is the fact that, you know, you have the option of going to two completely different campuses, even though it's the same school. So I, alhamdulillah, was like blessed enough to have the best of both worlds. So the super cool thing about Newark is it's super close to the city, which in itself provides its own opportunities when it comes to jobs and networking. The campus is literally surrounded by companies like Prudential, and a bunch of other like really high business companies. So they're the ones that are coming to your career fairs. They're the ones that you can easily like hop on a train and get to. So that's like super cool about Newark. With New Brunswick, you still have like a lot of good companies that recognize the school, but I would say that it's not like you can't just hop on a train and like go to the city. For the transfer process, there are some classes that, well, first of all, they look at your GPA a lot. There is a minimum, like they want a 3.5. They're not gonna like look at your, even like within the school, they're not gonna look at your application if it's anywhere below a 3.5. Also, there are some classes that when you transfer, New Brunswick might not necessarily accept. So like I mentioned before, there's a difference in the Management Information Systems class. So that's the computer class equivalent in Newark, but that's not in New Brunswick. So if you took it in Newark, you're gonna have to take a different version of it again in New Brunswick. The application is super simple. They're just gonna, like I said, ask your GPA, and they're gonna be asking you to write 300 words on what the reason is that you wanna transfer. Aside from that, you have to have taken, I believe it's 6 of their core business classes. So it's gonna be very basic intro classes like intro to accounting, calc. Another thing to note if you're interested in transferring, the basic requirement for calc in the Newark Business School, it's called basic calculus. But in New Brunswick, it's considered Calc 1. So if you're looking to transfer from Newark to New Brunswick, just make sure that you get accepted into a Calc 1 class instead of a basic class, a basic calc, because then you're going to essentially have to take calc twice. So again, back to the 6 classes, you would have to take intro to accounting, both accounting, there's financial and managerial, supply chain, marketing, finance, and yeah, basically all your like 6 core classes for business.
Can you take that all within your first year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. There's Yeah, those are classes that are not going to require any prerequisites. So if you do end up at Newark, or you do decide to go to Newark and then you later decide that you want to transfer, try to make sure that you take those classes first. That way you're not going to have to take any extra classes when you get to New Brunswick.
Okay. Yeah, because I have a couple of friends who transferred from Newark to New Brunswick, and it was usually after their second year, because I guess just in terms of planning classes, it's easier to get those over 2
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, it's definitely a better like decision to take those first. And the other thing for that is when you're taking all those introductory classes, because you're required to take it for all of the possible majors, it gives you a better idea of what you want to end up majoring into.
Cool. In terms of deciding on your major, when do you have to decide on what your major is for the business school? And were there any programs or any classes that helped you in making that decision?
Sure. So when I actually applied to Rutgers, I came in as accounting, mainly because I wasn't 100% sure yet what I wanted to do. And then after taking an accounting class, I decided this is not what I want to do. And I also took a supply chain class. So that's kind of what helped me decide where I want to go. And switching the major was a super easy process. You just have to go to your counselor and sign a form. And typically you would declare your major at the end of your second year. So it's not too much pressure to have it solidified by your first year. Go ahead and like test the waters, take whatever introductory classes, talk to different professors, and they'll give you a better idea of like what exactly that major entails.
Cool. And is there anything else that people should know about Rutgers Business School that they should consider, especially if they're interested in business?
I would say that like Rutgers is a really good school. I know a lot of people who live very close to Rutgers are so like, oh, I want to go somewhere that's farther from home. It has a very good rep among big companies. So don't try to like go somewhere far just because you don't want to be close to home. Really recognize what kind of like name that Rutgers carries. Also, one like super amazing thing that Rutgers does for you is there are career portals and internship portals that are specific to Rutgers with employers. So there are employers on the other end of things who are going to be looking at these portals because they specifically want Rutgers students aside from like other schools. And I know like other schools also have that. Like I believe Hoda also mentioned that Temple has one specific to Temple. But like really do research on like what kind of programs your school offers. And that would be like the best thing that helps you make your decision.
Cool. Alrighty, thank you so much, Sabiha, for telling us more about Rutgers Business School. Oh, Wasim, you're already on. All right, so we're going to move, inshallah, to our next part of the program, which is the general sciences and pharmacy part. So we're going to start with Temple. Wasim, are you there? Do you prefer Wasim or Sayed Wasim?
I'm good with Wasim.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So you can give a quick introduction about yourself again,
All right.
and talk about what do you major in? That's sciencey, neuroscience?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sayed Wasim. I am a junior at Temple University, and I am majoring in math, comp sci, and neuroscience. Yep.
Cool. Well, so it's speaking specifically, I guess, towards sciences and stuff, because this was something that we brought up in our growing conversation.
Mhm.
Is there a specific, I don't know if you would know this, but is there a specific major or minor for pre-med, or is it just taking the courses that are required for med school?
Just taking the courses that are required for med school. So
Okay.
you just take them and then you're good. I know Jefferson undergrad at East Falls, also near Philly, they have a pre-med major. So but Temple doesn't.
Yeah, to me that was super interesting because I mean from Rutgers we don't have that. We don't have a major or minor. It's just you take the classes that you need to take.
Right.
So when people told me they're pre-med, I'm like, okay, but what's your major?
Right.
Because
Exactly.
pre-med's not a major.
Right.
Cool. I know you talked about before about you being interested in possibly going into grad school. Temple. Okay, so I actually applied to Temple when I was applying to schools, and one of the things that I really liked about it, and Rutgers had something similar. I was considering doing teaching, and Temple had a lot of 5-year programs with that, and a lot of that you can get certified as a teacher. And also get your education degree, and you finish a master's within 5 years. So that's something that helps with saving money as well. Does Temple have any, or do you know of any accelerated programs like that for other master degree programs, or are you familiar with any of those?
Yeah, so there's actually, they started to introduce them last year actually. So they're all 4+1 programs, and there's one in bioinformatics. So they select, if you want to do that program, you have to decide by sophomore semester, the last semester of your sophomore year, because it's basically you have to do, say you want to do a neuroscience master, you would have to do a neuroscience undergraduate degree. So the reason they make you choose by the end of your sophomore year is because junior and senior year is when you really differentiate into your major at CST. So if you're a bio major, and then if you're a chem major, you're still going to take the same classes for your first 2 years, but your last 2 years is where you're really going to differentiate yourself and start taking different classes. So if you want to do a different 5+1 program, for example, bioinformatics, you would start off with a bio undergraduate degree, and then that last year you would go into your bioinformatics degree as well. So it's different. So you basically have to decide by the end of your sophomore year, which is kind of daunting. And that's why not a lot of people go into it, because they want that freedom of deciding, like being able to change their major basically.
Cool. And something that I learned about, because I didn't know that they had this at Rutgers, but I'm curious if they have the same thing at Temple, is a major and minor fair that talks about the different majors you could possibly get. Is that something that you know about if Temple does?
I don't know if Temple does that, but this is a class about the different things you could take at that college, right?
No, not a class. It's literally set up like a career fair, except it's for majors and minors.
Okay, so I think we had something similar, but it was built into like the orientation kind of. So so each college has a different orientation. So like I had a CST orientation, and they listed out all the majors and things like that. But then also, I had an honors orientation where they talked about the honors tracks of those specific majors. So it's kind of built in, but they don't have a specific fair for that.
Okay, that makes sense. And then I guess my other question would be in terms of the different advisors for your school, is it based off of major? Or do you just have an advisor for the entire school that you would go to?
We have about 5 or 6 advisors for the entire school, at least for CST. And then if you're in the honors program as well, you have those advisors available to you as well.
Okay. One question that keeps coming up is about career fairs and different things like that. I know Huda spoke a little bit about what her experience is with career fairs. Does Temple have like career fairs that are specific to schools, or do they just have general career fairs that students can attend?
They have both.
Okay.
So, for example, you'll have a business career fair, but they'll be like, if you have Lockheed Martin will be at the business career fair, but they'll be recruiting computer science students or mathematics students. Temple really doesn't do any any bio or neuroscience or chem major career fairs, because for most of those you kind of have to go to grad school, at least a master's. So they really don't do those, but if they do have them, they're they're more like internships. It's with SAP or Dow Jones or GlaxoSmithKline, things like that. And there'll be like a 6 to 8 week internship that they're just hiring a lab technician or something like that. So they really don't have anything for quote unquote the pre-med majors, but they do have it for others.
Cool. Then I guess, is there anything else that you want to talk about for Temple University? And I guess since specifically this is for general sciences, for neuroscience, like something that was unique about your program or your experience with it so far at Temple?
Yeah, so at Temple, there's actually 2 different neuroscience majors. So we have a College of Liberal Arts neuroscience major, and then we have a College of Science and Technology neuroscience major. So the CLA major is more oriented towards writing intensive courses and the psychology and sociology of neuroscience, while the CST neuroscience major is more directed towards the biological and molecular and cellular level of neuroscience. So you're doing a lot more research, quantitative research, whereas in CLA you're going to be more hands-on with qualitative and doing surveys and things like that. So there's kind of the best of both worlds, and you get to choose. And there's not one isn't better than the other. It's just whichever one you prefer at the end of the day. So I think that sets us apart from other schools that maybe don't have that.
Cool. Well, I think that's all the questions I have, unless there's anything else you want to add about Temple and your experiences.
I guess I'll say what I said last time. Temple is a city school, and there's a lot of people there. It's a very social school as well. Obviously, when there's no pandemic, you have all the Philly schools nearby. You have Penn, Drexel, U Sciences, LaSalle. So all the MSA events are open. You can go. So it's a very social school, but it's also very competitive because of the number of kids there. And so, but it's also a good thing because you can make a lot of friends who have similar interests as you, and so it turns out to be a really great experience.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much again for attending twice, Wasim.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
We really appreciate it.
Yep. Have a great day. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. And Waleed, you're on, right? I think you're next.
Yeah, I'm on. Assalamu alaikum.
Cool. All righty. So, Assalamu alaikum, Waleed. Do you want to just give a quick introduction of who you are, what you're majoring in, and I guess your experience so far with Rutgers SAS?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Waleed Tariq. I am a senior. I am currently a senior in my last year at Rutgers. I am a CBN major, and I am also health administration. With School of Arts and Sciences, it's a very, very broad school. There's, as I said, I'm like pre-med, which is not a major or a minor. And I think, so the different majors that you can go with, I'm doing cell bio neuroscience, but there's obviously bio, there's exercise science. You can go economics, you can go with computer science, you can go with, there's tons. I think SAS is probably the best thing. If you don't know necessarily what you want to do, it's the best middle ground to basically branching out. Even if it's engineering, you can start off with something that kind of leads you to engineering, and then you can transfer out. I think it's the smartest move if you don't know what to do, because there's so many, like the slide says, there's 100+ majors and minors across the sciences. And with health administration, it's technically not an SAS school. It's part of the Blaustein School of Planning and Public Planning and Policy. But the fact that SAS is so broad, it allows me to do that major while being in SAS without having to transfer, without having to fill out any forms, without me going through the entire process.
Cool. So a couple of questions. Did you know that you wanted to do cell biology and neuroscience? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, so cell bio neurosciences.
Nope.
Yes.
Okay.
Going in, honestly, I didn't know. I kind of was just like on that wave of the pre-med track. So like there's so much you can choose from. People tend to go with the route of exercise science because it's not credit intensive. CBN is very intensive in terms of credit, but there's kind of a balance with everything. CBN being the toughest major in my opinion. For the pre-med track, it weighs heavy on your transcript when applying to med school or grad school in general. And I think I kind of had that edge because I have 2 older brothers who did CBN. So I kind of just went in their path. Since I didn't know what to do, and I think it's, sometimes when you don't know what to do, it's best to look at someone you look up to. And like me having two older brothers, I sincerely look up to in every way. It kind of was like, okay, if I don't know the right path, at least they'll make sure I don't take the wrong path. So it's like that, I guess.
Cool. And in terms of, what was my question? Oh, okay. So one thing that I was always curious about, and Wasim kind of talks about this for Temple, that you can, and the major will differ slightly, but you can get a BA versus a BS. Does that apply across all majors for SAS, or is it more so for the ones that are sciencey? And is there any difference in the programs depending on if you're trying to get a bachelor's of science versus a bachelor of arts?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So CBN it's a bachelor of arts, and then health administration is actually a bachelor of science. And it's really funny because the one that's the more sciencey, like very, very like chem oriented biochemistry, organic chemistry, that's considered a BA, and then something that's just more on the admin side is like a BS. And there's no difference in terms of, it's kind of just like there's a title that's been given to it. There's not much that it's not like the one's weighted over the other. They're kind of their own thing, and it doesn't change how the outlook of the classes or the courses.
Cool. Is there anything else that we should know about Rutgers SAS that I didn't talk about that you feel like people should know when they're considering applying?
I think what I said in the very beginning, if you don't know what to do, SAS is the perfect choice because it allows you to really see what you want to do, what fits you. And then if you were to say go into the engineering school or go into the business school, you can make that change, you can make that jump without hurting yourself. And then if for any reason you weren't to switch, then you're able to fulfill whatever major that you want to in SAS. About Rutgers in general, I would say it's an amazing school to be a part of. The MSA is, in my opinion, is the best MSA out there. It's close to home, which I think a lot of us are very family driven through everything we do, and a lot of our parents, I think, Sabia mentioned this earlier. It's this notion that like we want to get away from Rutgers, and sometimes you don't really know the name and the reputation that Rutgers carries, but it's definitely a notable place. It's definitely a notable alum to be a part of.
Cool. And one more question that actually just came in from our audience. And I don't know if you have experience to this. We were actually supposed to have someone from SUBS speak today, but they unfortunately got sick and weren't able to join. But what's the difference between SAS and SUBS? I know I was confused about that when I was applying myself.
Right.
Are the majors between the two schools the same? Is it harder to do, like getting to SUBS versus SAS, and is it easy to transfer? Like what is the main difference, I guess, between the two schools?
Yeah, that's a very genuine question to ask. My younger sister who just got into Rutgers, she's a part of SEBS. There's no difference in the classes that you're gonna take or the course you're gonna take. There's a difference in majors. SAS definitely has many more majors because of the factor that it has arts and sciences. SEBS is very science driven, very, neuroscience and exercise science, bio, chem, physics, so stuff like that. Is it easier to get into? I'd say yes, because not necessarily a lot of people apply to SEBS. It is an easier school to get into, but if you were to take a route on, like say you're doing pre-med and you want to decide whether I should do SAS or SEBS, I'd go back and I would still tell you, even though SEBS is very science driven, I'd still say to take SAS because of the fact that you have so much leeway with what you can do in the school of SAS that maybe when you're in SEBS you won't be able to do.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's all I have in terms of questions. Unless, is there anything else you want to add, Waleed?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, cool. Well,
Thank you
thanks so
much.
much for joining, Waleed. We
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Alrighty. Janan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Let me see if I can start my video.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, great.
All right, Saikam. So if you want to just give a quick introduction of who you are and what you're doing at U Sciences, and then we can get started.
Great, yeah, so assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Janat Amin. I'm a 5th year student at U Sciences at the moment. I'm currently studying pharmacy and I live in Philadelphia at the moment. Should I just go into the program itself?
Sure. If you want to talk first about applying to U Sciences, is it part of the Common App or is it something you have to apply to online? And is it strictly just a pharmacy school? Like, can you do anything else at U Sciences? That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So I believe when I applied, there was option through Common App. It's very easy. And it's not strictly a pharmacy school. However, it is notorious for it because it is the nation's first pharmacy school. So that's one thing that really they sell to people. However, they don't neglect the other majors. There's a bunch of other science majors you can pursue, such as biology or like anything related to that, like biomed, like microbio. There's also other direct 6-year programs such as occupational therapy and physical therapy. And recently our PA program got reaccredited. So that's also an option as well if you'd like to pursue it. I believe that is also 6 years. So these aren't programs that you have to exactly apply to early on as a senior in high school. However, that is the path that I chose. But if you choose down the road, you want to pursue pharmacy, you can always apply in and then you'll start your professional years that way. I personally chose this school because when I was applying to pharmacy schools, I was looking for direct entry programs. Personally, I do not like standardized testing, and pharmacy colleges require PCAT if you're applying out of the program. So some programs don't require PCAT, it's direct entry, you have a guaranteed seat, and that's what I really liked about the school. So
can you talk more towards the direct entry? Because that's actually the first time I've heard of that terminology.
Yeah, sure. So basically you just apply as a senior, and if you get accepted, it's kind of like very similar. There's an extra interview, at least for this school, there wasn't an extra interview or anything. I believe because it's mostly like, they're known for those programs. So it's kind of like you just apply for it. And yeah, so it's really nice. You don't have to worry about things like that in that way, like extra stuff like exams or like studying for that big exam and applying to different schools. All you have to worry about is keeping your GPA up. I believe you need a 3.0 or 3.0 overall, I think 2.5 or something like that, math and science GPA. In order to keep your spot. But we have advisors to help you. There's a lot of tutors. So it's what it is you do 2 years undergrad, they call undergrad, and then 4 years professional years. And that's for all the direct entry programs. But I believe PA might be 4 years and like as an undergrad, and then 2 years PA school. I will have to double check on that. But as for the ones listed on the slide here, it's 2 years undergrad and then 4 years professional years. Actually, sorry, my mistake. Physical therapy is 3 and 3. And I think they're shifting occupational therapy to 3 and 3. But pharmacy is going to stay as 2 plus 4. Oh, sorry. One more thing I forgot to mention is you don't have to, if you enter the school, you think you're going to do 6-year program, but you find it a little challenging, you can always take an extra year. I believe up to, it's called like Ready +4. So whenever you're like ready to enter the program, you can do so. So if you need like a 3rd year, that is totally fine, and your seat is still guaranteed for the next program, for the next year.
Oh, that's interesting. So if you wanted to take an extra year, I guess, to finish your coursework and everything before going on to professional school, you can do that without it being an issue.
Correct.
Oh, that's awesome. Why were you interested in U Sciences? Oh, well, you said about the direct entry, but were there other reasons that you were interested in U Sciences? Did you know you wanted to do pharmacy right away? Or was it something that you weren't sure about completely?
So I guess I decided early on to pursue pharmacy. I found it to be an interesting field. I know Rutgers has their annual Shadow of Pharmacy Student Day. So I think that's the day where I kind of set my decision. Like I was stuck between dentistry and pharmacy. I know I wanted to do healthcare field, but not like direct like medicine practice. So I wanted to do some kind of health science related career. And once I went to Shadow of Pharmacy Student Day, I decided that it's a good path. I saw the coursework. I do enjoy chemistry and biology. So I decided to, that pharmacy was a great mix of the two. And what else I was gonna say? Yeah, I wanted a program that was fairly like straightforward. And also one thing is that pharmacy is very diverse. So I'm sure most of you probably think CVS immediately, potentially hospital. But when I went to Shadow Pharmacy Student Day, they told us like the 3 main branches, which is like hospital, retail, or industry. And when you get to school, you'll find out that it's even more. So you can go into insurance, you can go to law school if you want to and practice pharmacy law. Some people actually even go to med school after. I personally am an advocate for having pharmacy experience before med school or anything of the sort. There's just so many different paths and so many different careers. And I found that interesting as well. So even if you're not sure where in pharmacy, like there's always like something that's best tailored to you.
So do you get specialization for the different things? I know nothing about pharmacy. Like do you when you when you graduate, you get a PharmD, but like is it a PharmD and you can get a specialization in something? Like how does that work?
So it really depends on where you decide to go. Specialization, if you want to be a clinical pharmacist, I know some people pursue a residency after, and like it's called like PGY1 and PGY2. So the first year is like a general hospital residency, and then in your second year you would specialize. So if you wanted to go that route and specialize in a certain area, such as like transplant or oncology, you could do something like that. I believe I think you don't really need like special licensures, like if you want to do something like compounding. Most of it you can get a job, but I believe after school you can pursue a lot of postgraduate training options, which is becoming very popular now. So I guess that's what you would consider like specialization. But yeah, as in terms of like certain areas, like if you're doing clinical, I think residency, that's where you would specialize.
Cool. In terms of like career fairs and stuff for pharmacy, is that something that happens or is that something that the school offers, or do you just get experiences through your professional years?
So we do have career fairs. I've been to a few where there'd be like some companies coming by, like, and you get to visit tables. We'll also have people come for to speak for like pharmacy organizations. Like we've had Rite Aid come by and like do like a recruitment kind of panel. Let me think. There are a lot of opportunities definitely to gain connections. I'd say U Sciences in general is very well known. Anywhere you go, if you want like in the pharmacy world, they'll know PCP. Like it's like a known name, especially since it's the first pharmacy school. So I'm thinking, sorry. You also get a lot of experience through rotations, so you're required to complete those in order to graduate. So that's a great way to connect. And we do have a lot of organizations on campus that are involved in getting people to come in and speak on what they do, how they got their job, or even just companies just coming and speaking on how they work or how you can pursue like the postgraduate training that I mentioned. So there are a lot of opportunities to be able to explore various career paths. Basically, I suggest getting involved. That's one great way to build up your resume, and just going and gaining perspective. That's the best way to do it.
Is there anything else you want to add about U-Sciences or your program in general that you think people should know and consider if they're interested in pharmacy or just interested in applying to the different programs that U-Sciences has to offer?
Yeah. So I think U-Sciences is a great school. It's some people might not have heard of it, but once you like come and see it, it's really it's in an interesting location. I wanted to go to a school that was in a city environment, and I thought this one was great because it is a small school, and you will get to know everyone if you stick around. You will pretty much know everyone in your year for the most part. But it is a fun environment. There's a lot of motivated people trying to, come here and like build their careers. For example, they also built this new dorm, which is what the picture is in the slide. That's very new. It opened like a year and a half ago, and those rooms all have separate bathrooms, and you only share it with your roommate. So if you're looking to dorm, I think this is a great place, especially for Muslims as well. It's pretty safe. We're located in West Philadelphia, literally like a mile, not even like 10-minute walk from University of Pennsylvania, which some people probably don't know. But I really like where it is. I like that it's close to the city. You can just take a trolley. So I always tell people, I used to be an ambassador, so I tell people like you have the hustle and bustle of the city. Like you can go out and do stuff, like explore or whatever. But then you can always come back home, like, and it's pretty quiet on campus. Usually a lot of people go home on the weekends. But overall, I think it's a great school for pursuing something that you want to do early on. Even if you did want to do it later on, we have great like programs, like you get like your master's in the like occupational therapy, physical therapy, and you could still get a PharmD if you wanted to like transfer into the program later on. Yeah, that is all I had to say. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining and telling us more about U-Sciences and pharmacy, especially because I really don't know anything about pharmacy. Yeah, and thanks again for being a part of this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure, no problem. And if anyone ever has any questions or needs any further insight, you can always like forward my contact information to them.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we're probably going to send out a form after this event. Just if anyone has any questions or would like to get in contact with any of our panelists.
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Alrighty. Samiha, can you hear us? I keep saying us, but it's just me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you see and hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
All right. So if you just want to start with giving a quick intro on who you are and what you're studying, just to give a quick background before we get started.
Okay, sounds good. Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Samiha. I'm a student at Rutgers School of Pharmacy, and I'm in my 4th of the 6 years. So it's a 6-year program. And yeah, that's what I'm doing now. The year that I'm in now, we call it professional year 2. So that's what I've been working on online.
Cool. And Rutgers is, I mean, for pharmacy, right, it would be the same application process as any other Rutgers school, but you would do it through their website and it would be one of the 3 schools you'd have to choose.
Yeah, that's right. So when I applied in 2016, it was the same thing where on your they're not on the Common App, so on their Rutgers application on their website, if you're interested, you would select it as one of the 3 schools.
Cool. And there's nothing additional that you had to submit for that or anything like that?
No, there's nothing additional. It's all like the same application.
Cool. Do you want to talk more towards, I guess, so I'm going to ask the same question I asked Janan if you heard my conversation with her. So when you graduate from pharmacy, you get a PharmD. But I saw on their website that there was also a bunch of dual degree programs. Is that something that a lot of pharmacy students do? Is that something that you've considered? If you can just talk more towards that, that would be great.
Yeah, so basically how it works is first you would apply to the 0 to 6 program, and then you get in, and basically the first 2 years are like considered undergraduate years, and the next 4 years are considered your professional years. So what you would do is, I think it's at the end of your second or perhaps your third year, they have an option where you can apply to the dual degree program. So that would be Doctor of Medicine, Master of Public Health, and Master of Business along with your PharmD. And normally what they do with that is you would meet with an advisor, someone who's in charge of the program. And in your professional years, you would take extra classes that count towards the extra degree you're working on. And then the end goal would be is so that you would graduate in 6 years with your PharmD, and then the next year you would get your, let's say if you were considering Masters of Public Health, you would get your PharmD, and then the next year you would graduate with the Masters because you were doing the classes at the same time. So it kind of, it helps you save time and I guess energy in that sense. So if that's something you're interested in, I would really recommend it. I have some friends that are working on actually a new dual degree program called Health Economics and Outcomes Research. I think they just started earlier this year. So I have some friends that started taking their classes for that already. So that's super interesting if anyone's interested in that kind of thing.
Cool. In terms of the school itself, what has been your experience with talking with advisors and making sure that you're covering all the courses that you have to take? Has it been challenging? And well, before starting that, did you know that pharmacy is something that you wanted to do, or were you undecided when you were going to Rutgers?
Right. So in my senior year of high school, I still was kind of unsure about where I wanted to go, but I had the general idea that I wanted to do something in sciences or healthcare related. So I applied to the School of Pharmacy. I wasn't really sure exactly like if let's say I decided that if I wanted to go to pharmacy school, I wasn't really sure which way I would want to go with it, like in a hospital or in a community pharmacy, but I thought it's a great thing to choose for someone interested in healthcare. And if you want to explore the career pathways, and also just like personally, I'm comfortable with the level of like patient interaction you have. So I feel like I'm like good at communicating with people, and like I would be good at counseling people. So I thought I would prefer that level of interaction over like let's say what a physician does or what a dentist might do. So I think that's why the field of pharmacy specifically stood out to me in terms of like other healthcare fields. And I'm so sorry, I forgot your second question.
Yeah, I spoke a lot and then hopped first. What has been your experience with advisors for your school, and I guess in terms of reaching out if you have any questions for your program?
So the good thing is when you come into the School of Pharmacy in your, when you enter the professional years, they assign you to a faculty member who's supposed to be like your mentor and advisor. And basically in some of our classes, to ensure that we like start a conversation with them for kids who like haven't reached out yet or are a little shy to reach out, they make sure it's like an assignment in one of the classes to reach out and do like a resume and CV review with them. So just reaching and just having their contact info to reach out to them and hear about their experience is really helpful. So I really like that. And how that works is when you enter so when you get your white coat in the beginning of your third year, they'll pair you with a faculty member. And then throughout your whole 4 years, that person is your mentor. But another thing I wanted to point out as well is in the first 2 years of going to Rutgers, you're kind of in the pharmacy school less, so you'll be taking like general classes that are all over the university, all over the 4 campuses. So another thing you should remember that you can do is that you can reach out to other advisors as well. So I'm also part of the Douglas College for Women, and they also pair students up with advisors and stuff like that, and they have like offices where students can reach out. So remember speaking to an advisor from the Douglas Women's College as well. And that really helped me, honestly, because sometimes you just need someone to like bounce your ideas off of and to find out about opportunities. So one of the opportunities I found out about through my advisor, I think, was the Douglas externship program. So if you're in any major at Rutgers and you're undergraduate, the externships are really good. It's like a 1 week experience where you can shadow someone in different fields. So I would really recommend that before I keep blabbering on and on about that. But yeah, definitely something to look out for. It's called the Douglas externship experience.
Can you actually speak more to Douglas? We've had a bunch of Rutgers students speak, but I think you are the first one who has been a part of Douglas. So I think that would be a great experience to talk to.
Yeah, sounds good. So basically, if you're a Rutgers undergraduate student of any major, at the start of each semester, at the start of each semester, you have the option of enrolling in the women's college. So basically, that would add, if you want to be a member of the women's college, it would add $50 to your term bill. And I think if you do it once at the beginning of like when you come to Rutgers, then you're automatically enrolled. So basically, if you're a student in the women's college, you have access to some extra like opportunities with them. So that would be like the externship opportunity. And you can also attend like a bunch of, well, now it's webinars because of the pandemic, but they used to have a lot of like in-person events where you can network with people. I remember the first networking event I went to was a Douglas event, and I thought that really helped because you're surrounded by students just like yourself and strong women that you can look up to. And it was a really comfortable environment because I know networking can be like a little intimidating when you see like so many professional people. But for my first networking event, it was a really good opportunity to talk to people. And another thing about Rutgers is because it's such a big school, you have to like work a little harder to find smaller communities within Rutgers, which can be a little hard in your first year. But I think Douglas and that their events and stuff like that really helped me just like meet other girls and look into other opportunities. So yeah, I would highly recommend joining them.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to add about why people should consider Rutgers or specifically Rutgers Pharmacy when they're applying to different schools?
So I think if you're interested in a healthcare field where you obviously are interested in like the use of medications and treating people, and you also want to be a good advocate for people because as we know, like a lot of people in the US don't have access to good healthcare. So if you want to gain a really good knowledge base to be able to not only treat people, but to also be like an accessible form of information for them, and to provide services to people and to be an advocate, I would really recommend the field of pharmacy. And also, if you aren't sure exactly where you would want to work, so you don't really have to commit right away. So, like, if you enter the school of pharmacy, it doesn't mean that, oh, automatically, like, I'm going to work at pharmacy, I'm going to work at a hospital. Like, once you explore and meet new people, there's a lot of different opportunities, and you have time in school to decide what you would really want to do. So I think that's a great asset to this major. And I also like that it's a 0 to 6 program. So you're kind of like 6 years in total for your professional schooling and your undergraduate schooling. I feel like that's good if you're interested in like saving time. So I really like those aspects of the program.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sabiha, for joining us and telling us more about Rutgers Pharmacy. And if anyone in the audience is interested in applying to pharmacy, consider both U Sciences and Rutgers because they're both really great schools.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Sabiha. All right, and then to close out our general sciences and pharmacy section, we are going to move on to NJIT, and we have Haider and Rola. Haider cool. Okay. So if you guys just want to start by giving a quick introduction on who you are and what you majored in, and then I guess about your general experience with NJIT.
Sure. So I guess I'll go first. So I am a Bachelor of Science biology major. I graduated in 2018. I currently work for Cigna as a data analyst or business analyst. And in terms of my experience with NJIT, I actually joined the honors program, and that was a really fulfilling experience for me. And I also, I guess, in terms of this presentation, I also should mention that I had a full scholarship. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
All right, my turn. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Hather Zaki. I'm a junior at NJIT right now. I came in as a biomedical engineering major. I switched to a bio BA when I was kind of decided that I wanted to do medicine. I'm doing that. Yeah, I don't know. I go here. It's cool. I'm also part of the honors program. That's good.
I should also mention that I was in the St. George's 3-year medical program, but I decided not to be a doctor. So hopefully we'll get like 2 different perspectives.
Oh, that's awesome. So I guess talking first towards the honors program, since both of you guys were a part of it, is that something that you're automatically considered when you apply to NJIT, or is it something that you specifically have to apply for?
If I remember correctly, I think it's like a checkbox on the application. Because I remember the only reason I remember that is because somebody told me like oh, like you might as well apply. It's just like, or maybe there's an extra essay, but it's not a ton of extra steps. I believe it's through the same application, and there's probably like a checkbox plus maybe like an extra one like letter you have to send to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, he probably has a better memory than I do, but I remember it was just, yeah. I remember it was one additional essay.
Okay, that's probably it.
Yeah.
Cool. And with that, did you guys have to start off, or were you required to dorm on campus for that?
So I don't believe so. I mean, it could change. It could have changed as of right now, but for me, it was definitely not required. But for some people, you ended up getting a partial room scholarship or a full room scholarship. So that would kind of encourage you to stay on campus.
Yeah, to that that hasn't changed. I mean, you don't have to. They don't have like any requirements as far as I know for like any program where like you have to stay on campus. And yeah, as she said, like honors is they're pretty good about like money in general, but especially like with the dorms and stuff, there a lot of people do end up getting partial or full room scholarships, as she said. So a lot of the honors kids do end up in the honors residence. Plus, it's like a nice building too, so people.
Oh, it's like it was very hotel-esque.
It's a really beautiful building. Yeah.
Cool. In terms of, well, I guess I'll start with you. In terms of the program that you mentioned that you were accepted into, since this is general sciences, I know we have people who are listening who are definitely interested in pre-med. So can you talk more to that program and what it was? And was it something that you had to apply to separately?
Sure. So for that specific program, it was kind of like a checkbox. So what ended up happening was you applied to the honors college, at least for me, you applied to the honors college, submitted the essay, you were accepted. And at that point you had, like before you were accepted into the honors college, you had to go to an interview. And in this interview, they asked you about programs that you would want it to apply to. So it was like pharmacy program, master's programs, doctor's programs. I would say in general, and the thing is, I didn't really have any doctor friends or people to reach out to and talk to. But I would probably avoid the St. George's medical program simply because it is a Caribbean school and I had no idea at the time. And so if you decide, I mean, it's not illegitimate in any way, but if you do decide to go to a Caribbean school, it will be harder to get residency in the US. Just in general.
It adds a lot of roadblocks effectively.
Yeah. So instead of doing like a 3-year program and then jumping straight into going to a Caribbean school and things like that, it would probably be more beneficial to you to take a gap year, maybe focus on if you're not applying directly, obviously, it would be more beneficial for you to take a gap year and kind of collect those requirements before applying.
I would add to that just that they also have maybe it's been added since you were there or not, but they have an NJMS program, which is an MD school in Newark. It's like right there, and that's probably a more straightforward program is how I'd
Mhm.
put it. Where so that's like an American like normal kind of like MD school, and
Isn't it
where
like
that program.
I was gonna
Sorry,
say,
what?
isn't it like up the street? Something
Yeah,
like that?
it's like
Yeah,
really
yeah.
close. Like you'll
We
like
had
run into
that,
like
yeah.
exactly. It's like really close. Yeah. So and then that works out really well where it's 3 years undergrad and then you go straight to the med school.
Mhm.
It's useful if you know that you want to do that and you're cool with NJMS, which is a perfectly great like med school. It saves you some time, but also it adds a lot of like stress to your plate, kind of. So I mean, obviously it's great because then for 3 years you kind of to an extent know that you're like guaranteed an acceptance to med school.
Mhm.
So there's one like huge load off your shoulders, but it is then you're kind of like rushing through course loads, and in my opinion I think you miss out on a lot of opportunities. And even like even the faculty at NJIT will tell you like most of them disagree with these kind of accelerated programs where they think that the students that kind of apply to them or that use them a lot of times, depending on the student obviously, but a lot of times they're kind of missing out on an opportunity to either do more research, which is a huge thing at NJIT, and also just like different clubs and just being ready for it really. So I mean, that's a questionable thing. It'd be great to apply, and if you get in, it's an awesome program. But it's a double-edged sword, kind of.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Cool. And you did mention research. So our audience has been asking, I feel like, two things. One is research opportunities, and the second thing is career opportunities. And I mentioned this during my presentation that I know NJIT is known for their opportunities in terms of careers because of the relationships they have with a lot of companies. So can you guys talk more towards that?
Uh, yeah, Rolo, if you probably know this part better, so if you want to take this over, and I could speak on the research if that's something that people care about.
I mean, I could speak to, I'll speak to careers. So here's the thing. It's true that they have a lot of connections. The only issue is that for bio majors, it's not really something that is available to you because most companies that come to the job fairs are engineering companies, and they are normally looking for either computer science majors or computer engineering majors or any of the engineering fields. I found in my experience it was extremely hard to go to job fairs and even try to get a position. And so I guess what ended up helping me in the end was, I guess, my own work. What I ended up doing was taking a few Excel courses online to kind of supplement the skill set that I already had. And I used the projects that I had worked on to apply for internships. And then from there, I kind of started my kind of career, I guess you would say. And then I guess even before that, I initially, again, as I mentioned, I initially was a pre-med major and I was like very gung-ho about becoming a doctor. And one of the important aspects of pre-med is doing research. And so the research that I ended up picking was marine biology research. And so I kind of, as I was participating in that research and doing that research and kind of seeing like a whole different side to biology, I kind of realized like medicine wasn't really something that I wanted to continue pursuing. And this was, by the way, this is like my junior year, something like that. So it was pretty late for me to change my major or anything like that. And so what I ended up doing was I realized I didn't want to become a doctor. And then that's how I started adding those extra classes in to kind of shift my career path. And I can talk a little bit more about how to get research positions, but maybe Hader, you can talk about that a little more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, either way. So yeah, same with me. I think, yeah, I probably have more, or not more, but I think it personally, like I have like almost no experience with the kind of career side of it. But I would echo also that like, yeah, the career fair for bio majors is to an extent kind of useless. Just because like there's like the jobs that like a bio major would get aren't really like accessible in that kind of like environment, like over like a career fair with like companies will come by. As far as research though, NJIT is like a great school for it. Recently, we were rated R1, which is like the equivalent of D1. So we're effectively the top tier of research of like any type of school. It's pretty accessible to students, I think, because like Rutgers, the scale of the school and the number of kids that want to do things and are super like go-getter kind of people, it makes it a little bit tougher. At NJIT, there's like professors. First of all, everything is a little bit more personal, I'd say, because it's just a smaller school.
Mhm.
So that's from advising to just classes and teaching and stuff. So that kind of translates to research as well, where it's not like incredibly hard to get your foot in the door, and then from there, there's like a bunch of opportunities. There's a grant for every type of project. There's like business stuff. There's like business mixed with this, that, the other different grants for I forget the word, but there's a lot of opportunities, and I think that's one of the strongest parts of NJIT.
And I think one thing that I would like to add is that even outside of like actual programs, most likely your professor is doing some kind of research. So if you are in a class and you're interested in something, you can go up to your professors and once you get to know them well enough, ask them like, do you have any research opportunities? I would say that before you approach any professor randomly, do your research and read about what the heck they actually do. And that will give you a much stronger position when you are asking for a research assistant role of any kind.
Cool. Is there anything else that people should know about NJIT, or why should they consider it, especially if they're interested in more techie majors?
Do you want to go?
Oh, sure. Okay. I feel like I've been talking too much. So I think NJIT is absolutely fantastic because of its location. It's located in Newark, and so it is extremely close to New York City. And so as part of that, you are pretty much, it's like a 45-minute path ride to kind of just go and just live your best life. And so you're pretty much open to all the career opportunities in New York. In addition, there are so many opportunities within the college itself. And it's, since the classes are so small, and Hader touched on this, since the classes are so small, they're like 30, 40 people normally once you get outside of the general classes, it is so much easier to find and like connect with people within your major, as well as connect with your professors. And this has probably definitely been mentioned before, but if you ever want to advance in a specific field, you need to network with the people that are in that field already. That's just number one thing you need to do, I think. And the fact that NJIT is so small makes it a really great place to do that.
Yeah, if I could speak to this, I think the best, or I think there's a few awesome parts of it. First of all, as you mentioned, like Newark, just like even like besides like New York, but Newark itself, it's like a community where, I mean, you guys probably all know this. Like they need help, the people there, but especially as a pre-med, you're put in a position where you want to be giving help. So it works out really well where there's like 1 trillion opportunities and a half to be helping people in genuine ways, but also something that can kind of go on your resume and that'll really help you in the future. Then also with NJMS right there, you can do research there, and there's different programs there that you could partake in. So that's another big plus. And then also, I think probably something that sets aside, besides like money, which I think is also, it trumps like a lot of schools, like anywhere basically, with like how generous they are. But besides that, I think like advising, it's a lot more personal than like a lot, or basically any other school I've heard of, at least, is in that like just to register for the next semester, I have to talk to like 4 advisors, like one for honors, one for bio, one for this, one for that. And like they want to talk to you, and they'll know your name, like your professors will know your name. And like when you want to apply to med schools, like stuff like that, they'll be involved in every step of that process. And I know that a lot of other schools, you kind of have to struggle to get like any attention. But here it's like they'll know your name and they'll be emailing you about this, that, the other, and they're kind of helping you with a lot of steps of the process. So I mean, just in that alone, I think a stronger support system, just because it's a bit of a smaller school than basically Rutgers is the main comparison.
That's true. I think we should add that we're also right next to a hospital. And so there are a bunch of volunteer and scribing opportunities, if I'm correct, Hader. I don't know.
Yeah, so I actually scribed at university, and it was awesome because it's a trauma one center. It's awesome, but I think they closed the program during Corona, and like I'm not sure. It's like it's more than just closing. I think like the contract ended, so I'm not sure if they take that back up. But that was an amazing opportunity. They might have something at St. Michael's too, right next by.
Maybe.
So maybe, but yeah, a lot of opportunities.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for joining. Definitely gave a lot of insight to more of what NJIT is and the opportunities. And Hader, yeah, you're right, because everyone always compares it to Rutgers. So it's
Yeah.
great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great that we have both schools so that people can actually see the comparisons between the different schools and figure out exactly what they want to do.
Can I say one last thing? Just that I think this might be on a lot of like parents, especially mind. Like Newark, it's like just hearing it's like kind of a scary city. People have like bad opinions on it. Or I mean, obviously it's a tough city, yeah. But just like I'd say that the NJIT portion of it is like surprisingly like well kept. It's not secluded, but it's kept to its own like devices. So if you don't want to get off campus, like you can stay on campus and you'll feel safe because there's literally within like 3-4 blocks, there's like 5 police forces. There's Newark, NJIT, Rutgers, Newark, which also there's a lot of opportunities there. And then there's like the Essex Community College. So there's like mad police everywhere. There's security people, and they've worked it well. Where like I don't think anyone would really feel like in danger at any point like near campus unless you're doing something stupid. So like that I think is a thought that like you don't have to worry about that if that's something on your mind.
Okay, now I want to add something as well, since I feel like a lot of parents are watching. Hater, so I guess in terms of like scholarships and stuff, because finances are really important. Hater mentioned on this that, you know, NJIT is a very generous school in terms of finances. I would say that the one thing that is really, really important if you are considering the honors college and if you are considering trying to get a merit-based scholarship, your SAT or your ACT has to be the highest possible score that you can possibly achieve. So from my time there, my score, I think it was like 2100, like in that range. And I believe since then, the requirements for full scholarships, the SAT like limit has gone up. So you definitely need to try to get the highest possible score. I think also the SAT is on a 1600 scale now,
Yeah,
so you can convert that however you need to.
Yeah, every year basically it's been going up, and
Yeah.
now it's I think where the average for the honors college is like a 1485, which is out of
Yeah.
1600. That's a very competitive score.
Very competitive.
So you do have to, if you want, especially like the scholarships and whatnot, you do have to kind of get the numbers up.
Mhm.
But if you can, then there's a lot of great opportunities to kind of open up for you, and it's definitely worth putting in that time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. I'll stop talking now.
Me too.
Definitely a lot of great information. Yeah, thank you guys so much for attending and closing out our general sciences and pharmacy section. We really appreciate it. I keep saying we. I really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kat. Miriam.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our last section for our virtual college fair, and it's going to be the liberal arts and social sciences section. And we're going to be starting with Rutgers Mason Gross School of Arts. And we have Sarah and Yusra on the line. If you guys want to start with just giving a quick introduction on who you are and what program you are a part of, that would be great.
All right, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sarah. I studied design at Mason Gross School of the Arts. So I did the design major track with a printmaking concentration. So as part of both the art and design tracks in a way. Over there, I received the Mason Gross gift fund. So I had a free ride my senior year. And yeah, me and Yusra both are co-founders of Muslim Feminists for the Arts at Rutgers University. So basically that's an organization that uses the arts to educate and raise awareness of Islamic feminism through the Quran and Hadiths by displaying art in galleries, outside exhibitions in New Brunswick and Korea, and also panel discussions. Yeah, so Assalamu alaikum, my name is Yusra. I'm also same major, same concentration, we're twins. Yeah, so I majored in design with a concentration in printmaking as well. Something I should add is currently, so for the past, I graduated last year in 2019. So I've been freelancing for the past year. I've been doing a lot of package design for different companies, whether it's Alia Foods, which is a date company, or Belah, as some people know it as. So I've been making packages for that company. I've also worked with kids packaging toys. I've worked in an advertising agency in Manhattan that has worked with Benjamin Moore, Equitable, different companies of that sort. They worked with Spotify. So yeah.
And so I could
Yeah,
also skip
going
down
off
her
of that, I
career.
completely forgot that I even had a career because of the coronavirus. But I was in an advertising agency doing advertisements for a whole bunch of different companies. So I did companies for Gillette and Venus, the razor brands. I did advertising designs for Canon, YouTube, TJ Maxx, Douglas Elliman Real Estate, as well as UPMC, the medical department, and a whole bunch of other things such as Haagen-Dazs. Yeah, I have a long list of clients, so I worked on a bunch of different designs there. So I could basically start by going through a little bit about who would want to enter Mason Gross, because I know that a lot of parents might not be sure, like, why would my child go into art or design, or if you would want, I don't know much about performing arts like theater and dance, but I can speak towards the art and design department for sure. Mason Gross has an 18% acceptance rate, so it's a very prestigious program that cares about both grades and portfolio. Basically, someone who would want to go into Mason Gross would be going into painting, drawing, media, so someone who would want to be part of broadcasting or filmmaking, someone who does printmaking. Design covers a whole ton of different fields. So if you want to do graphic design, advertising, art direction, packaging design, user interface design, such as website design, coding. We covered a lot of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, PS5, I believe it's called, Arduino. So all of those types of things. So there's a whole ton of things under design. Don't just think that it's just drawing. On top of that, you choose a concentration. So you would choose one of those concentrations, or you could choose two. So a lot of people will choose two. For example, me and Yosara did printmaking and design. For example, if you want to do animation, someone might combine drawing and drawing and what? Like drawing and media.
Yeah.
Or if you would want to do something like
drawing and sculpture, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So designers, for example, might do design and photography. That way they have both photography skills and design skills and could be better than other designers. So when you enter Mason Gross, you go in as a general art and design major. However, you choose a concentration track when you're a sophomore. So you could go in undecided and just submit a general application.
Yeah, so basically what that means is that you would go and you would be just like a general visual artist, and you would still be exploring the different classes and all the different majors. And you would then, after your sophomore year, you basically have, you have what's called a sophomore review. There's a sophomore review and a junior review. And then there's a thesis your senior year. So for your sophomore review, that's when you essentially display all your work, and you need to prove basically that you could be a part of this major, that you are capable of being a part of that major. And that's when you're, if you pass that sophomore review, then you are officially accepted into that major or that concentration. So for example, sculpture or printmaking or design or what have you.
Yeah, and speaking to design specifically as that major, I want to also mention, just because we're in the middle of the coronavirus, that a lot of things are going online. So a lot of people do need design work for sure. And it's a lot of people do work from home. So it's definitely a very safe major right now, I would say, for sure.
Cool. Do you guys want to talk more towards the application process, just because it's different than the normal application process for record schools? And I think it's super important for people to understand that.
Sure. So on the second slide, I have some links for the different portfolio information. So yeah, you can just go to the admissions site. So this is the Rutgers Mason Gross admissions page. So if you scroll down, you'll find there's like the different admissions for all the different programs. So scroll back up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So at the left side, you'll see there's like admissions and there's art and design, dance, filmmaking, music, theater. So you could find any information you want for each of those programs here. So for example, if you click on art and design, so you could find that here you see like all the different types of applications. So for example, if you click on the BFA, which is BFA or BA program, which is what most people here would probably be looking at. If you're graduating, the BFA program is the undergraduate program. Would you be able to click on that for us? Thank you. So it gives you the information. So, so here you have like, for example, if you're a first year, if you're a transfer student, all the different types of applications. And if you click on that, it'll have like the different information as to the deadlines. And then if you scroll down, since Mason Gross is a prestigious program with really low acceptance rate, you should do early application for sure. Yeah, you'll have a better chance of getting into the program. So there's two parts of the Mason Gross application, which is first you have to do the Rutgers application. So over here it links you to the Rutgers application. So you just do the general app where it has, you apply to 3 different schools. So you could apply to 3 different schools in Rutgers and you get accepted to whichever of those. So Mason Gross would be one of them if you're looking to apply to Mason Gross. So after that, there's also a separate Mason Gross program on a website called Slide Room, I believe, right? Yeah, Slide Room. So that has a separate fee for it. And then it basically runs you through another application, and this is where you'll be submitting your portfolio. So over here, basically, so your portfolio is, first of all, it's a very big deal. You really need to be working on it. Essentially, I would say your whole high school career, if you can. If not, just try to find as many people as possible to mentor you and to help you to have the best portfolio possible. So here, for example, they have the requirements. You have to have a personal statement. And with that personal statement, I would recommend that you essentially have basically like your artist mission statement. That is essentially what will drive, like that's like something that drives you and something that makes you essentially stand out against everybody else. Like what makes your art different than everybody else? What's your focus? So for example, a lot of what I did was around culture, and a lot of what I did was on location and displacement. So that was just something that for me, it helped me stand out in my application. So another example would be my theme was political games. So I worked a lot with art about the Middle East and how America affected it. Yeah, and you'll find also like depending on the school that you're in, they'll be pickier on they'll be looking for different things. So Mason Gross, they very much want to see personality. That's their main drive. They really want to see your personality and that you're different than everybody else. So in your portfolio, so what they have here is that you essentially need 15 to 20 examples of artwork that were produced within the past 2 years. And within that, it should basically emphasize your accomplishments and your strengths. So it should really show that you could succeed in their classes. So let's say, for example, for me, I knew I wanted to go into design, but I had no experience in design. I was an artist. I was a visual artist. So you could essentially, what you could do is just have a portfolio of different things and just show at least one piece that you're trying to do, what the major that you're going to eventually do. So you don't have to actually be professional at it. You don't have to actually, you don't have to have like all the knowledge. You just have to show that you're trying to work with it while and that you're also showing interested. your best work. Yeah. But then after that, like so let's say you have no experience in design. So have one project that's design and then show your best work after that. Even if it's not design, if it's like, photography, painting, what have you. So yeah, so I should mention that is very different for a program, for example, Montclair. So for Montclair, they want you to know your stuff. So like I applied to the design department and I was rejected because I was more of a visual artist. So I was instead put into the art and like the art program there, whereas I was trying to do design. Over here, you could be any of these things that are under their department and you'll still be accepted. However, you need to have, like I mentioned before, really good grades and really good portfolio, generally speaking. Yeah, so that's basically it with the portfolio. Just you really need to make sure that you have someone to mentor you. That's a really big thing. There's also different types of events such as portfolio reviews that you should definitely attend to get advice from different people around, in different schools and what advice they would have for your portfolio. You can even do one at Mason Gross. There's a certain time of year, I believe.
Probably in the fall.
I believe they do it twice a year. I'm not sure, but they do it at some point where the professors there will tell you what to change and what not to change. Yep. So yeah, any questions, you could definitely direct it to us because it's honestly like a pretty loaded program. There's a lot to know. There was a lot more that we wanted to go through too, but we're pretty short on time. Like over here, I'll just say real quick, these are like the exhibition spaces. So you can see here, there's like, there's like, you could see here, there's like, so the top one on the right, that's me taking down an exhibition that I was working on. And there's different exhibitions, there's artist studios and things like that. There's just so much to the program. Yeah, so one of the perks of Mason Gross, so a lot of people, to backtrack, a lot of people compare a Rutgers program, for example, which isn't necessarily known for visual arts, in comparison to a program, for example, the Fashion Institute of Technology or the School of Visual Arts, or any of these really prestigious New York programs. So the reason why Rutgers would be a better option than those, if you're looking for that, Rutgers has much bigger gallery spaces. So you have much more space to put stuff in a gallery, whereas over there you would have a much smaller space or no space. You have much larger studios, so you might have a private studio that's essentially a room that you can have all year and put your work in it. You also have things outside of Mason Gross in Rutgers. So for example, the Center for Islamic Life, if you ever need help or want inspiration from their classes, if you want to be part of the Douglas Women's Program, there's a ton of other activities like MSA. You're not going to find, like a good MSA program in, for example, a School of Visual Arts. So this is a good place to really work on your, I would say your diverse background, really work on your faith, really work on anything, and not just art and design or whatever other program you're in.
Cool. And what we're going to do, because there's a lot of information for this, and you guys gave a really good presentation. We're going to send out a form after this event. So if anyone's interested in learning more about this program and more from you guys, we'll get their contact information and share it, inshallah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, inshallah.
Cool. Yeah, but this is super informative because I don't know much about Rutgers Mason Gross either, and it's just so cool. So just a quick question before we close out for you guys. For the gallery that you're talking about, is that something that's required, I guess, as like a project before you graduate?
Yeah, so there would be a required thesis at the end of your senior year. To clarify, this is if you're doing a BFA. If you're doing a BA, just a Bachelor of Arts, it's not required for you because you're technically part of School of Arts and Sciences.
Okay.
Yeah, so a Bachelor of Fine Arts is what would require a thesis. So for that, you do a year-long program where you do basically a ton of research and you work on whatever field you want to. So for example, my thesis is actually here on the slide. It's the blue ponds there. So this was actually a combination of design and printmaking. So it was art, design, bookmaking, and environmental graphic design. So I kind of combined all of my niches and research about Islamic art as well as mysticism, so like Sufism. So I combined all these things from research from the Silver also. And you basically work on it for an entire year and put it out there. So yeah, it's I would really recommend it. It's a really great program. Yeah, for sure. We had a ton of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being a part of this event and sharing your experiences. And inshallah, if anyone reaches out to us to get more information, I'll let you know.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. All right, we're going to move on to our next school, which is TCNJ. Amani, can you hear and see me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if you want to start by giving a quick introduction on who you are and what you've majored in and like just your experiences with TCNJ in general.
Sure. So I'm currently a copywriter and a scriptwriter for 2 different jobs that I'm doing. And they're both work from home. And I was a journalism and professional writing major when I was at TCNJ. So there is one quick thing that I also wanted to include. TCNJ has a program that's a research program for all majors, and it's called the Muse program. So it's a mentor undergraduate summer research program. And essentially your professor picks you, or you can even ask your professor if your professor doesn't have a mentee yet. And typically it's a summer, so it's usually starts in May and it lasts until about August. And you are required to stay on campus as well as do the program with your professor and work together to complete this project. So for journalism, it's a lot of like web development and coding as well as content writing. So that if that is something that's interesting to people who are interested in journalism and that profession, then that is something to consider, and also to make sure that you apply for the program earlier rather than later.
Cool. So that's something that's actually something you'd apply to. So it's not just
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's something that like every major has. So even if you're not, say, a journalism major, you can still apply because TCNJ is constantly looking for students who excel in their studies and in their like majors. So depending on what major you have, your professor might be looking for, sometimes it's a team of students if it's the science department, or sometimes it's like 1 or 2 students if it's English or journalism.
Cool. And in terms of your experiences with your major, what do you feel like is unique that NJIT, wow, I'm tired, TCNJ has that you feel like you wouldn't have had at another university or school?
So TCNJ actually requires you to do an internship, which is really helpful, especially if you want to land a job in journalism, because it's all about making the right network, like making the right connections and also knowing people. So definitely getting that first internship is rough, but your professors walk you through the steps so you aren't completely lost or on your own. And even after graduating, you still have your professors helping you out in terms of writing recommendations or anything else that you might need.
So in terms of those internships, is it something during school or is it something over the summer?
So typically they prefer if it's during the school year.
Okay.
You can have it during the summer, but you have to get special permission from the department and things like that. I had a bit of a unique situation. My internship started during the semester and then it lasted during the summer as well. So it really just depends on you and your internship, as well as what the school agrees on with you.
And TCNJ is on the Common App, right? I think.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay. And in terms of like, can you speak more to any scholarship opportunities that they have? Do they do merit-based scholarships as soon as you apply?
They do merit-based scholarships. I can't really speak for like first-year students because I was a transfer student. But I know specifically if you have a GPA of like 3.5 and above, you are most likely going to be getting some kind of scholarship. It really just depends on your major as well as how many scholarships are being offered that year.
Cool. And can you talk about the transfer process and how that was for you in terms of transferring it, and the application process for that?
Sure. So I applied, I think it was like a couple years ago. And so when I transferred, it was during the middle of winter. So the classes are a bit different then because of what's offered. So that does have you have a slightly different experience going into TCNJ if you start in the winter term versus the fall, just in terms of what is offered to you in terms of classes, as well as the different extracurriculars that are done. Typically, a lot of the research opportunities start in the fall. So if you are looking for that kind of thing, that is something to keep in mind. And then like a lot of the job opportunities or things like that is also in the fall. So that is something to keep an eye out if you want to get a job on campus. Something else is also in terms of transferring, I think it's it honestly wasn't that bad. It just really depended on how many credits you had and whether they counted for your major. I was lucky in the sense that I didn't have to take too many credits, and so I was able to start it more or less right away. Sometimes if you are unlucky and something didn't transfer over, you might have to start with those classes first, and then you'll be able to start your major requirements.
Cool. And is there anything else that you feel like people should know about TCNJ or should consider when they're thinking about schools to apply to?
Definitely apply early because it does sometimes take a little longer than Rutgers to get responses back unless they've changed things recently due to Corona. I'm not 100% sure if they have. I do remember I had to, I think I applied early. I did one of the early deadlines and applied. So I recommend if you are interested in TCNJ and you want to make sure you get your decisions before the deadlines, then to do that as soon as possible. For the arts and communications, I can really only talk about the English and the journalism programs because those were the programs that I know the most about. But their education program is also really good from what I've heard. And so I do recommend checking that out too if you're interested in teaching or if you're interested in getting a master's after you're done with your bachelor's degree.
Cool. And is there anything else you want to add about your experiences with TCNJ or anything else?
I would say like definitely take advantage of all the internship opportunities that TCNJ gives you, especially because in the journalism department, you do have an option to apply to the Dow Jones News Fund, and that is a really good program to get into if you can. It's a really strenuous process because you have to do a news editing test and like different and get letters of recommendations and things like that. But if it's something that you're serious about, I highly recommend considering it. I personally did not apply to it mainly because I wasn't 100% sure if where I would be located. But I think if that is something that you are interested in and you're interested in working in like New York City or something like that, then that is something that you should consider as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Imani, for joining. And we'll do, like I said before, we're going to be sending out a form to see if anyone wants to get more information. But yeah, I think this is super important, especially the research opportunity that you mentioned at TCNJ. That's super awesome. Is there anything else you want to add?
I can link the Muse program and everything to you, and then that way you can send it out a little bit later. And then if anyone has any questions in terms of the Muse program or even the journalism department and how to get an internship, they can definitely reach out to me as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining again.
No problem.
All right, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
All right, and we're moving on to our last school, which is Rutgers for Social Sciences and Liberal Arts. So Jada and Ariba, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Cool. All right, Assalamualaikum, guys. So quickly, if you want to start off with introducing yourself and what you're majoring / minoring in, yeah, we can get started with that.
Sure. My name is Ariba. I graduated from Rutgers University in 2017, and I majored in public health. So I was a student of School of Arts and Sciences, as well as the Blaustein School of Public Policy.
My name is Jada Abdullah. I am a senior at Rutgers, of course. I am majoring in political science and minoring in history.
Cool. in terms of, I guess, so one thing that I learned today that I didn't know Rutgers did was the majors and minor affair. Is for SAS, since there's so many majors and minors, it can be intimidating. Do they break it out by like different types of majors, like the more sciencey ones versus the more like liberal artsy ones, or is it just for all majors?
So all majors are at the event, but they do have like different tables. So let's say like maybe towards the student center, they might have, you know, political science classes or just organizations in general where they're interested in. But yeah, everything is separated, but they're all at the event.
Cool. And did you guys know what major you wanted to do before coming to Rutgers? Did you come undecided? And was that intimidating for you when you applied to Rutgers? Because Rutgers is a huge school. I know there are a lot of different schools. Regardless of SAS, there's a lot of different schools you can apply to. And then within the schools, there's a lot of different majors and minors that you can do.
Yeah, so I had no idea what I was coming in for. And again, I was a part of SAS, and SAS has so many majors and so many just opportunities and stuff to explore. So I actually took my first public health course in my sophomore year, fall semester, and I really got intrigued by the major, so I kind of explored it a little bit more, and I ended up declaring my major as a junior. I was taking a lot of public health classes before then, but I had no idea, and I didn't even know public health was a major before I took the introductory course that Rutgers was offering. Really liked it, really saw the scope in the major, and kind of decided to go ahead with it at that point.
I actually knew when I was in 10th grade that I wanted to go into political science and history, especially since my 10th grade history teacher, she nominated me for the National Youth Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. in 2015. So after I experienced that, I realized that I really wanted to go into public service. So, and I knew that, you know, political science, that route would help me get to where I would want to be.
Cool. And I guess, so I'll start with you, Jada, in terms of like opportunities and different programs that you feel like Rutgers gave to you, right? Because you're political science major and a history minor. So are there any opportunities that you had at Rutgers that you feel like you wouldn't have had at another university?
Yes, definitely. So Rutgers, they have a prestigious program called the Eagleton Institute of Politics, which I actually did not know too much about it until I was a part of, like once I already was a freshman and sophomore at Rutgers, but it's a great program. I'm a part of the Eagleton Undergraduate Associates, which you have to apply for in the first semester of your junior year. And once you get accepted, then the rest of your junior year and your senior year, you are taking 3 classes where you learn about political theory. You have networking experiences where I can meet different, you know, congressional leaders, different lawyers. So people, I know of people now that have hands-on experiences. There's also an internship placement, and we have workshops that help us, well, they help us prepare for the political arena if we choose to like continue that path. So it's definitely a great program. And even if you're not a part of the undergraduate associates program, they have different opportunities for research in terms of like, let's say if you're interested in public interest polling or women in politics, or even just the American governor or state politics in general, there's different research opportunities for that. So there's something for everybody. And that's one thing I wish I knew before I applied, but I'm just so happy that Rutgers has that program. So definitely don't overlook Rutgers if you're interested in political science or anything like that.
Cool. And Ariba, do you want to speak more towards your experience with opportunities at Rutgers for public health, and because you went to grad school, like how Rutgers has prepared you for going to grad school for public health.
Yeah, absolutely. So the good thing about Rutgers, which some other schools also have, is that they had a dedicated school for public health. And like I said, I went to Blaustein. So Blaustein is a school of planning and public policy. They had classes catered to different interests within public health. And that means that the faculty was very much experienced in whatever they were teaching and the research that they were bringing. So I thought that was something unique to Rutgers for undergrad. Plus, they have an internship program, like a required internship that students have to do as seniors, mostly in public health. And I thought that was an amazing opportunity to kind of find basically your interests within public health, because there's so much you can do. I went to grad school. I did my master's of public health after I graduated from Rutgers, and Rutgers really helped me kind of find my niche within public health and try to like, I'm interested in global health, public health. So because of taking several classes at Rutgers and interacting with the faculty at Rutgers who work in global research and stuff, I was able to kind of find a graduate program which allowed me to really get more hands-on experience within global public health and really find my niche within it. So I definitely would encourage everyone who's interested in just a healthcare major. Like, that's how I started. I was interested in a healthcare major. I didn't know what I wanted it to be, but then I found public health, and then now I have a master's in public health. So it's been great. Alhamdulillah.
Well, is there anything that people should know about Rutgers, or like, why should people apply to Rutgers? Especially, I feel like, I keep saying the Muslim community, but it's true, right? That people are like, oh, it's Rutgers, it's a state school. No. And people want to get away from Rutgers. What's something that you feel like is super important that they should know, and why they should consider Rutgers when applying to schools?
I would say, and this applied to me when I was applying to Rutgers. Like you said, a lot of people do want to go away, and they just want to stay away. And a lot of people have reservations that maybe it's too big. But one thing that I realized was that because it's big, there's a lot of different opportunities and different experiences, and it gives you more opportunities to grow. So if you look at it in a positive, if you have a positive outlook on it, it could definitely help a lot. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, I know someone mentioned it earlier, but Douglas Residential College is also something that's really unique to Rutgers in general, because well, it's for women, and I think it's such a great place for women to help other women. Like, you could have different externship opportunities. For example, I was in January, I went to the New York State Supreme Court, which was a marvelous experience. Like, it changed my life. It changed certain outlooks that I have. And there are different scholarships that you could also have, but the network is just really important. And I just hope that a lot of people take into account that Rutgers is a big school, has a lot of opportunities, and don't miss that chance.
I agree. I would just say that Rutgers itself has, like Jada said, so many opportunities that even if it does seem overwhelming, you can actually find your own little thing that you're comfortable with, if that's something you want to find. You know, if you want to be lost in the crowd, you can be. If you want to find your little group of people, like the little few things you're interested in, you can also find that. And I think that was the best part for me about Rutgers. Also, there are like several opportunities to explore, not only majors, but research opportunities. Study abroad is a major thing. Work study opportunities, you know, there's just so much that Rutgers offers.
Cool. I don't think I have any more questions on my end, but is there anything else you want to add before we close out the program? I'll take your silence as we're good. Cool. All right. Thank you guys for being panelists, and thanks to everyone in our audience for being a part of this program. Inshallah, like I said, we're going to work on sending out a form. If you want to learn more about the schools and the different programs that we talked about today. And I'll also be working on sending out the presentation so that everyone has the information. Great. Thanks again for being a part of it, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Bye,
Bye.